biggest asset of a company is its people. And to manage people, it becomes imperative to bring in people managers, making HRs the business enablers. A very good morning, everyone. On behalf of Zimar, the HR Association of XIM University, I, Kadambari Khare, student of the School of Human Resource Management, extend a warm welcome to you all for HR Symposium 22. I would like to acknowledge the presence of some of our eminent guests. Today, we have with us our respected Vice Chancellor, Father Anthony R. Uvri S.J., respected Registrar, Father S. Anthony Joseph Raj S.J., respected Dean, School of Human Resource Management, Dr. Andrew Datta, respected Associate Dean, Dr. Moshmi Padi, esteemed industry dignitaries, our faculty moderators, other faculty members of the school, other guests who have joined us today for the event, and my dear juniors and batchmates, I take the privilege to welcome you all to this grand event. HR Symposium is the annual event of Zimar, which brings together illustrious leaders from the field of HR and IR under one roof to discuss the current trends in HR, generating engaging and unique insights for the young minds. Over the years, we have had the privilege to interact with the best in the business and gain a lot from the plethora of knowledge and experience that they bring with them. In an attempt to carry forward that legacy, we have come up with yet another topical theme this year. The theme for this year's symposium is Employer Branding, the Key to Competitive Advantage in the Post-COVID Era. The post-COVID era saw the period of great resignation and great hiring. Today, employers are increasingly in need of a workforce that is agile, innovative, and competent to deliver in a super dynamic business environment. How do employers build a brand to tap the best talent? A brand that job seekers look up to. To understand the underlying dynamics of employer branding better, we have eminent speakers divided into two panels to deliberate on pertinent topics under the theme. We are very grateful to them for joining us today, despite their busy schedules. We will get to know our speakers better as we proceed towards the panel discussions. I now invite respected dignitaries on the dais and our esteemed guests to mark the beginning of this year's symposium by lighting the auspicious lamp that symbolizes knowledge and wisdom. I request Father VC, Father Registrar, and Dean and Associate Dean to please kindly come and light the lamp. And also the dignitaries, the industry speakers, please come here.
गणनायकाय गणदेवताय गणाध्यक्षाय धीमहि गुणशरीराय गुणमण्डिताय गुणाध्यक्षाय धीमहि गुणाधीशाय गुणाधीक्षाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गणेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गणेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि.
Thank you all. Special thanks to Sankalp Hota for the shloka chanting. Now, I request Dr. Andrew Datta, Dean, School of Human Resource Management, XIM University, to please deliver the opening address.
Thank you, Kadambari. Respected Father Vice Chancellor, XIM University, Father Anthony R. Uveri. Respected Father Registrar, Father S. Anthony Raj. Father Chief Finance Officer in absentia. Our keynote speaker for the HR Symposium, Mr. Rajarshi Ganguly, President and Global HR Head, Alchem Laboratories. All our esteemed panel members from the industry and academia for today's symposium, my fellow deans, faculty colleagues of the school and our university, staff members, and my dear students. It is my great honor and pleasure to place my opening remarks for this HR Symposium 2022 with the theme, Employer Branding, the Key to Competitive Advantage in a Post-COVID Era. From the new normal, we are now in the next normal. As HR practitioners and HR professionals, are we and how are we contributing and supporting employer brand building? If flexibility in workplace is now non-negotiable, can any organization survive with the archaic thought process with the view that work from home is a paid holiday? How do we do branding for such organizations and make it attractive to reduce attrition? Or have the leadership competencies quickly aligned with the next normal? Beyond the four walls of the home of employees, is social media the only way to engage your talented workforce? Can we learn lessons from such companies as Airbnb, Marriott, or Walmart? In this next normal, employee engagement is no longer HR's job. It is a way of living for the entire organization. Are we realizing it? If yes, then how fast? Showing acceptance and openness to the LGBTQIA+ community has become the other name for diversity. How is this improving employer brand image vis-a-vis per capita employee EBITDA? Is your diverse talent drawn from diverse communities creating free cash flows for your company? Or are your publicized inclusion plans just improving your applicant pool? Questions are many and answers are even more. Researching across 33 countries with 185,000 respondents, Randstad recently found this year that the top 3 employee value proposition in post-pandemic times are flexible work options with deeper healthcare benefits, job security, and balancing work with life. So, what has changed then? Post pandemic? I am sure that our erudite panel members today will share and enrich all of us with their insights on employer branding strategies, plans, and actions, and enable our young HR managers to be more equipped to manage the next realities. A warm welcome to all our panelists for the day, to XIM University and the School of HRM. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your insights that have marked the commencement of the Symposium 22. Now, I welcome our respected Registrar, Father S. Anthony Joseph Raj S.J., to please deliver the welcome address.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Father Anthony R. Uveri, the respected Dean, Professor Andrew Datta, respected Associate Dean, Professor Maushmi Padi, esteemed panelists, my dear students and faculty colleagues. I stand before you to welcome each one of you to the HR Symposium 2022. I stand before you in the name of the entire academic community to welcome especially our keynote speaker, Mr. Rajoshi Ganguly, President and Global HR Head, Alchem Laboratories, and each of you, the 7 panelists, esteemed panelists, industry experts, who will engage with the academic community represented in this mini auditorium today by the students from the School of Human Resource Management. And among the panelists, there are at least 3 very known faces. We have our own SAB member, Mr. Mahesh Sambasivan. We have our alum, and we have also the change management head, Tata Power, Bharat Chabra. And in the name of the entire university, as we welcome each other, we also are aware that we gather here as survivors of COVID syndemic. A health crisis, yes. An economic crisis, yes. And what could be the implications of this COVID, especially in the workplace, in relation to the employer branding that we are going to engage in conversation with. Employer branding as one that each company needs to attract, to recruit, to retain. And therefore, I, as an avid observer of the impact of COVID on every area of our life, am eager to listen to the conversations that we will engage in, especially with regard to what has come, what changes have come, especially in relation to the employer branding. Is there any change at all? And what could be the changes? Because we, as an academic community in XIM University, believe and encourage next practice research. So even as we study the trends and the challenges that this COVID has posed to employer branding, we also want to get ready for any such changes that will come, because change is constant. So with these words, I once again welcome each one of you to the HR Symposium, congratulating the XIMR for organizing this, all the students who are involved in organizing this particular HR symposium. God bless us all.
Thank you, Father, for your enriching words. Now, I invite our respected Vice Chancellor, Father Anthony R. Overy, SJ, to please deliver the inaugural address.
Respected Father Registrar, the Dean, Professor Andrew, Associate Dean, Mausumi Padi, and the distinguished speakers of this day from industries, and my dear faculty colleagues, and all my dear students. Good morning and a very warm welcome to this symposium. When I read the topic, it's a very interesting topic, and it is a very relevant topic. It's a kind of topic of the time. This is the time that we need to pay attention to this topic and discuss and deliberate. Let me talk about my own experience on this topic. Last 2.5 years almost, we as institute, what are we going through with regard to this topic? I remember 2019 March, 20 March, when the pandemic started, when this lockdown started, the first lockdown, there was a kind of chaos, uncertainty building on all over the world. And the industrialists, academicians, all business for that matter, including families, were facing this high level of uncertainty. And it was for each one, each individual, each company, each organization, each institute, for them to quickly bounce back to the work life or family life. And I remember what we did was, we declared holidays for the students and the staff and faculty. Immediately we had to call all the staff and faculty how to start work from home. This work from home concept was something new for all of us. Work from home. How efficiently and effectively one can work from home. All industrialists started, organizations, corporates have started, all institutes have started. It's a Zoom account, a Microsoft account, a Team account, all kind of apps that we have been trying to explore the possibility of connecting with our own students. If you go through that process, it's amazing. And I need to literally get hold of the first address that I addressed to all the staff and faculty was through Zoom. And it was something, a new experience for us. Something new. And at the same time, something very easily that you can get connected to your own employees. That was the feeling at that time. In a way, I was motivating our staff and faculty, get ready to adapt to this new normal called online mode. The next 2 years, I said, the next 2 years, our life is going to be online. You are going to take all your classes in online. Some faculty were not used to this online system, and some faculty have got their own difficulties in handling this online system, or techno savvy. Or some faculty are saying, my course is purely mathematical, I need a blackboard. I need chalk piece. I solve problems on the blackboard. He said, yes, we can do it, we can learn. This is the time. So that's how we adapted the new normal called online mode. And it went on for almost 2 years. First 3 months, all staff faculty struggled. Now, if faculty is like that, the staff members who are assisting the faculty and doing the administrative work, what will happen to them? Right? They also did their best connecting with their faculty and administration through online. Of course, as Professor Andrew said in the beginning, it was a kind of paid holidays. For some, yes, it was. It was a paid holidays for some. But majority did their best, learned the technology, learned to use the online mode system. So that's how we adapted the new normal. Then came slowly as things were improving, the hybrid model. Now what did we do in the hybrid model? We had all the meetings on hybrid. Some can be present physically, maintaining the social distance, and some can be online. Still, we were able to take this communication forward. And after the hybrid mode, now physical mode is coming back. Now, if you sit and analyze last 2 years what had happened, your topic comes into picture. Now, people have experienced 2 years. You can call it experiential learning. Right? Through that, some prefer hybrid mode, some prefer physical mode. Now, what should an organization do, an institution like ours should do? Now, we have started the hybrid, online, offline mode, physical mode. But still, are we safe? That is a big question mark. Still, there are COVID. But we need to be cautious and careful. But let's come back to the topic. Employer branding. It's a challenge for an employer anywhere. Not only in the academic institutes, also in the corporates. It's a challenge for an employer. Here only the HR comes into picture. How efficiently and effectively you can get the best from your employees. What is the best form of getting the work done? Or how an employee can add value to the organization? In what form? A debate can go on. Hybrid mode is the best, offline mode is the best, online mode is the best. But in each system, there is enough advantages and disadvantages. But at the end of the day, as a HR, the challenge that HR people face in the industries and the organizations, what is the employee value proposition, EVP? Employee value proposition. It's a small term, but it has a tremendous meaning. tremendous impact on the organizations. Employee value proposition. How an employee feels, hybrid mode, I get the best out. But what are the disadvantages? Employer branding will get beaten. In what way? Yes, the organizational culture we will lose out. The hybrid model, you work from home. What are you missing? The relationship with other fellow employees, the friendship, the social life, the outside topic like a talk, chit chat. Some of these things we miss if you are working online or hybrid mode. But when you are coming to the organization physical mode, yes, employer branding means it will increase, enhance the employees' interaction, the organization culture, the organizational development, the growth. You exchange the ideas, you share the views, share the feelings. You see? That is how you grow personally, an overall development of an employee's growth, an organization's growth. Therefore, our OCND, organizational change and development, the HR has to focus on. Organizational change and development, the HR has to focus on. What is the best for the organization? We are not going with the best for an individual or one particular individual or one particular employee. What is the best for the organization overall, which includes the main stakeholders, the employees? What is the best for our employees? That's where, as HR fraternity, that we need to work on. And here are the HR students today. You think, reflect, do an introspection, and come out with some solution. You should be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. I, as a HR person, should be part of the solution. Okay? So with these few words, and I am sure I wish that I attend all the panel discussion today, but I have some other commitment. I will be happy to attend, but I will try to attend online, some of them. I am sure all of you will have a good interaction and deliberation and discussion, question and answers, and we will come out with some solution, some resolution, and some input and insights. So I wish each and every one of you, particularly the organizers, the School of the Dean and the Associate Dean and other faculty colleagues, students, all those who are organizing this symposium, I wish you all the very best, and may God bless each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Father, for enlightening us with your words. You have always been a pillar of strength and support for us. Now, I cordially invite Mr. Rajoshi Ganguly, who has joined us online today to deliver the keynote address. Mr. Rajoshi is the President and Global HR Head at Alchem Laboratories. He comes with about 28 years of experience in managing HR in sales and marketing, manufacturing and R&D environment in large organizations and diverse industries. He specializes in the area of strategic HR, change management, talent management, competency modeling, leadership development, and the list goes on. Mr. Ganguly has been awarded several times for professional excellence during his career. Recently, he was featured in India's Best 50 HR Leaders 2021 by White Page International, and India's Most Agile 20 HR Leaders 2021 by Sapphire Connect. Over to you, sir.
Mr. Ganguly, you have to unmute yourself.
Am I audible now? Okay, great. So, good morning to everyone, all the dignitaries present there, the delegates and the students. Of course, I can only see the stage. I'm sure there are a lot of audience in front of the stage. So, a warm welcome and my regards to all of you. Again, this is a new normal that, some of you are there and I'm sitting in Mumbai in my home talking to all of you. Though I wish I could have been in Bhubaneswar. It's a lovely place. I always enjoy going there. And I have been to your institute also several times in my past company. So I'm sure at some point of time we'll again make a visit there. So this topic which has been chosen for today's symposium, the employer branding and the key to competitive advantage, I think this is a very apt topic in the current economic and scenario that we are all undergoing, and of course in the years to come. Some of the speakers and dignitaries before me, they have already touched upon very aptly the importance of employer branding. It is not just a topic which is, apt for the corporate sector, but it is apt for every sector, including, education sector, where how you create a good employer brand for yourself. So I'm told that today there will be a couple of panel discussions, and I'm sure there will be a lot of interesting deliberations on this topic. But I'll just, over the next 10 minutes, I would like to put forth some of my views in the way I see this entire concept of employer branding taking shape, and going forward, the importance it would have is something that I would like to touch upon. And all of us know this, and the concept of employer branding is not new. It has been there for several decades. Of course, one should not confuse employer branding with corporate branding. While, one can have a very great corporate branding where you give ads or communication, but that does not guarantee that, one is a good employer brand also. So I think, first of all, at a very conceptual level, let us demarcate a difference between the corporate branding and employer branding. And it has been well established that a good corporate brand need not be a great employer brand, because to be a great employer brand, you need to have many other things. And in today's world, when we are part of the organization, today the employer branding has become a core area for the CEO and the leadership team of any organization. Because it has been realized that, unless we have a good employer brand and we are well known in the market and we have that kind of reputation, we will not be able to attract talent and retain talent. Of course, one can still attract talent and fill the vacancies, but it will not probably guarantee a good performance. So there is already a good correlation has been established between the importance of employer brand and the performance of the organization, and therefore how it gives you the competitive edge. When I look at the subject of employer branding, again, it is understood in different ways, and I'm sure a lot of experts will throw light on it. Let's not confuse employer branding with a lot of gimmicks that we see sometimes around. I mean, we hear examples of company doing that, flashing it in the social media or putting it in the paper. They're good. But again, some of these one-off events or something that, one would do here and there and that you see, that does not guarantee that one is a good employer brand also. So what is employer brand? To me, if I have to summarize employer brand, and Father just now alluded to some of it, the first component of a great employer brand comes with a reputation. How are you regarded, or how reputable are you as an organization? And as we know that in today's world, the reputation travels faster. In fact, the negative side of reputation travels faster than the positive side, because we are all super connected. And multiple researchers even I was reading a LinkedIn research very recently. It says that almost today, like we interview people and we do their reference check, 80 to 90% of the candidates who want to join your organization would do a similar reference check. And that reference check is nothing but, they would look at your employer brand. And today it's all out there. People are free to post their experiences through multiple channels like, social media, Glassdoor, Indeed, you name it, there are different avenues to post your experience in the organization. The first and foremost is, when we are looking at employer branding, how as an organization you are creating the reputation. And in the reputation, broadly, there are 2-3 elements. One is, the concept of whole career growth. When one looks for in the organization, like even you said that post-pandemic, there are, of course, different other features have come when people look at the reputation of the organization. But the first and foremost is the career. Is the organization I'm going to join would help me move up my career? And each one of us have a different aspiration. And is my aspiration going to be met by joining a company A versus company B? I think, and even if I join, would it help me to continue to nurture over a period of time? People may join immediately because they need a job. Of course, there is always an unemployment out there in the economy, but to retain a person, you have to give a very good career avenue. And there are good organizations. We all know there are many organizations who are also a good corporate brand as well as an employer brand. They are known to create, or they are known to supply talent to the market. And how do they do it? It's just because over years and decades, they have mastered this art of, cultivating a good atmosphere by which people believe and they see themselves growing in the organization. So that's one important element. How do you create reputation? The second is the culture of the organization. And culture, I'm sure all of you know, and I don't need to lecture on culture, but, it's in today's world, culture is all about beyond what we know. It's also about inclusivity. Is the culture fair? There's a diversity in it. Are we able to communicate, connect? So if that culture is not very supportive, obviously we will not have a great reputation as an employer. So culture is something that the organization today gives a lot of importance when they look at the subject of employer branding. And third, which is also coming up today especially post-pandemic and even around the time, because a lot of Gen Zs are coming to the market, and almost today, most organizations have about close to 15 to 20% of their workforce in the Gen Z bracket. And of course, I'm not excluding the millennials and all, but each one look for a purpose and a citizenship. They look at, is the organization really, part of a greater society and a cause? If as an organization, we are not able to convince a prospective talent that, we stand for something in the society, we really work for something, it's very difficult to create a good reputation in the long run. So while, of course, economic profit is always the goal of the organization, but you cannot exclude your contribution to the overall citizenship for the community that you work in. So people would always choose to prefer an organization which cares for the society, for the economy, for the environment, and many other things which makes you feel like you are a part of a national or a global citizen by being part of any organization. So collectively, of course, all these things play an important role in how do you create the right reputation. And reputation is directly correlated to, good or bad employer brand. The next important element apart from reputation is, which already you have alluded to, sir, is the employee value proposition. It's all about, if you join the organization, what you can expect. And are we committed to it? Do we guarantee that? And are we able to fulfill it? Again, let's not mistake employee value proposition. And this is where, many organizations do falter. It's not about a slogan or a nice, catchy para or a sentence you put up on the website or, you propagate. But when you actually join, you realize that the organization is not able to fulfill that. Do we have enough examples of the employee value proposition that you have really espoused? And it's also is the same for the the values and other things that organization talk about. It's not about how beautifully you have portrayed or presented in social media. It is how really the person is experiencing. Do the person or the employee feels, is it really worth the effort in this organization? Otherwise, the person will move on and they will go to the next greener pasture where possibly, these things get fulfilled. And that leads me to the third important part of an employer branding is the whole concept of employee experience. Today, people have choices compared to the time when we came to the corporate sector or even people before us. Today, the basic needs are almost guaranteed. I always keep telling that when we started working, even some of the basic needs were, important for us, like certain perks or certain things that you kind of get. But today, those are kind of available and given because from the generation we have moved, the new generations are already having some of the basic things. So what is the overall experience I'm getting? Experience around flexibility, autonomy, the technology interface that I'm getting in the organization, the development opportunities, the freedom of expression, how communicative the organization is, how transparent the organization is it rewarding well? Of course, there are many other such factors which gives you a great employee experience. It's employee branding is same as almost a branding of any product or service. Why we choose certain product or a brand versus other? It's because over a period of time, we experience and create that trust or have that trust with that product or service. We always prefer to, travel by a certain airlines or go to a certain restaurant or certain product that we buy in our household. The same concept applies to employer brand also, that it's all about reputation. There you may call it customer value proposition, you call it employee value proposition here. And the overall there, the customer experience here is employee experience. And if you apply all this in your own day-to-day life, this concept will be more clear that why is this important? Because unless we have a great, employer branding today, or it applies to like any product or service branding, you will not be able to hold to your customer. The same applies to you will not be able to hold to your employees. Because employees today have choices. The economy is booming. Compared to 30 years back, the choices in the economy versus today, it is much, much different. And the profile of talent coming to the market is very different than what it was 30 years back, because as overall as an economy, we have prospered. So with all this, I think this subject assumes huge importance, and more so in the post-COVID, where people have understood in the last 2 years, we are just probably coming out of pandemic, that, life is also not just about working. You work with a lot of flexibility. You have choices. I have seen people where, people have taken early retirement because they want to pursue their own interest, hobbies, because their basics are already taken care of. They have the basic financial security. So those things are also changing in the organization that we all work. I think we even heard about wellness, health. I mean, you can't say we are a great employer brand, but if somebody is sick and you force him or her to come to the organization, you have to create that security, the employment security, the health security. Like, some jobs can still be done work from home or in a hybrid model, but some jobs cannot be done. For example, if you are running a police department, or they are also organization, by the way, you are running a railways, you can't have a work from home. Or you are running a hospital, or for example, an industry like ours, we are manufacturing and selling pharma. Our medical reps have to go to the market to meet the doctors, and our factory people have to come to the work, and they came all the days during the lockdown also to ensure that we don't have product shortage in the market. Because if all the pharma companies go work from home, we will not get medicines out there in the market. So there are companies there will be companies who will be always, will have a mix of this, and they will have to ensure how they overall take care of the employees. In fact, I'm just going to conclude my session with a very interesting gentleman I met almost 6-7 years back. I won't name the company because it's a small company, and when we talk about employer branding, and in the initial statement I said, let's not confuse corporate branding with employer branding. This gentleman is a promoter of a very small organization somewhere, in Tamil Nadu. They make leather goods. I think they make leather shoes, chappals and all, and they export or even sell within the country. And I'm sure none of us know them. And how I came to know, because they came to a podium to receive one of the best employer award by CII. So this gentleman said, in my company, almost there are about 1,000 or 1,200 employees, out of which 90% are women employees. And they are all employed from the neighboring village where my factory is. And we talk about attrition, we talk about dashboard, this, that. He said, for me, attrition is not a concern because it's close to zero. And the employment model that this person has created is, this person employed all the housewives in the neighboring villages. And just to ensure that these housewives feel very comfortable working in the company, because they have to take care of the family, they have to take care of their children, they have to cook. This company has also created some of these facilities within the work unit, where you can go to your village, the home is not very far, cook and come back for 1 hour, or take care of the children. So it's a win-win situation. And you see, it is an unknown company. It has a attrition of close to 0% and doing fantastic in whichever segment they are. For him, that's the world, and that's the right employer brand they have created. They are not in the social media or any media, but for them, what more you can expect? If some company, it's almost close to 100% retention. So these are some of the examples we have to keep in mind. We have to, the gimmicks has to be less, and the real solid work has to be done within the organization to create the right employer brand to sustain. So with that, I would like to end, and I'm sure there will be great deliberation over the rest of the day. And I look forward to all of you, becoming more rich and knowledgeable on this topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your valuable words, sir. With this, we come to the end of the inauguration ceremony. I thank each one of you for your valuable time and for joining us to mark the beginning of today's event. We shall start with our first panel discussion for the day, sharp at 11:30 a.m. to a traditional pre-COVID workplace. To throw light on these aspects, we have four eminent industry leaders with us today as our panelists. This panel discussion will be moderated by Dr. Shubhra Patnaik, School of Human Resource Management, XIM University. I request Dr. Maushmi Padi to please welcome all our panelists and moderator by presenting a sapling to them. Now, I hand over the session to you, Shubhra ma'am.
Thank you, Kadambari. First and foremost, a very warm welcome to all our esteemed panelists. Heartfelt gratitude to you for joining us here today. Welcome all of you to this panel discussion. As Kadambari already mentioned, this discussion is centered on factors in the post-COVID era that could lead to building a powerful employer brand. Having a talented workforce is the key for an organization to survive the dynamic and competitive business environment today. Hence, organizations are all scouting for the best talent in the market. Recruitment has become as good as marketing, or maybe I would say as difficult as marketing. Big brands like Intel, Google, Barclays are all into aggressive, proactive recruitment. Millennial job seekers, and we don't know how the Gen Zs would behave, are extremely demanding, always posing the question of what is the extra that you provide me? So, what is the extra that this employee is giving me that others do not give? So, in such situation, what is the employee value proposition that can provide a competitive edge to an organization against its competitors? How have these factors changed as we have evolved into a more complex hybrid work arrangement? Rise of gig economy, rise of the virtual workforce. What implications do they have on the EVP or employer branding? For example, organizations like Google, who considered in-office benefits as their unique selling point, now need to re-strategize because most of their employees are now at a single point of time working from home. So what about the in-office benefits? How do we re-strategize? Research says that agility, flexible to employee needs, being compassionate, bringing in compassion to workplace, and hyper personalization. That is, organizations must realize that one size fits all does not work now. These should be the three cornerstones for organizational strategies in the post-COVID times. However, what could be the practical challenges to employers while implementing these concepts at workplace? Is it easy? We need to answer these questions before we think about employer branding. There could be no one better than our esteemed panelists today to answer these questions for us. All of them from established, celebrated brands, from diverse sectors. That's the beauty. So without any further delay, I take this opportunity to introduce our first panelist to all of you, Ms. Anupama Priyadarshini. She has joined us online today. Hi, Anupama. Ms. Anupama is the Director, Business Navigation at IKEA Services India Private Limited. She has been with the industry for around 24 years now and specializes in conceptualization, implementation of business strategies, mergers and acquisitions, post-acquisition integration, business development, strategic business planning, and much more. Anupama, as we understand, IKEA, the name itself, has the founder's initials of the farm that the founder grew on, and the village, nearby village. So it itself signifies, gives us a sense of getting connected to the origins, getting connected to your roots, and not forgetting that ever. And gratitude. So with this, I just hand over the space to you, wanting to hear more of these stories of IKEA. Over to you now.
Thank you so much. I had requested a video to be shared. I'm not so Zoom savvy. If that video can be played and then I can resume.
IKEA would like everyone to know about the place, our new augmented.
Yeah, Piyush, can I request you to play the video, please?
Thank you. It's a small 58-second snippet.
Hey, IKEA would like everyone to know about the place, our new augmented reality app. Built on Apple's new AR kit, you can easily place true-to-scale 3D models of IKEA furniture in your place. Scan, browse, select, move, and place. So that could mean less of this. And less of this. And probably more of this. We want to make it easier for people everywhere to imagine a better place. Share this place. And this place. Try place in your place. Hey,
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, Anupama, you were very clear. We can hear you very clearly. So over to you now. The space is all yours. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I shared this snippet, for a couple of reasons. One is that when you look at the furniture and how we get oversized big furniture not fitting into that space, they are beautiful when they are looked, separately. But when you bring it to your space, maybe they don't fit in. Similarly, for our co-workers, people may be fantastic, they may be brilliant, they may be very good. But are they the right fit for our organization? That is most important. So when we talk about employer branding, the most important is that our own co-workers are the brand ambassadors for the organization. Myself being in this organization now, I've just completed 13 years. Itself talks that yes, when you join an organization, you find your right fit, then you grow there and you also grow the organization. So most important is to have those right people to make that employer branding a success. Not talking about hybrid mode of working or what the topic is now, but this remains throughout. This is not like employer branding is starting today or anything has changed. Just like our products, which last through ages. There are some products which are the top sellers, even though they were made 40 years ago. So the same size, the same look, the same raw materials are being used even today. And there are others which are being added for vitality. Similarly, in the organization, you have some people who are doing the same thing over and over again. So what they do is they go deeper, deeper, deeper into that thing. And there are others who move around, bring varied experiences, and then come back and develop the same thing. So it has to be a mix. And this is what we secure in our organization, because it is all about we. For such a big organization which caters to more than 500 stores across the world, even from India and this region of South Asia, we do a lot of sourcing for all these 500 stores across the world. So how do we do it? We do it through our people, because for a purchasing and logistics organization, which I am representing today, our biggest resource is our people. And having the right people to collaborate and to co-create is most important. We don't attract or hire people who are, a lot about me. We have those people who are about we. So we have we talks and we have me talks. And the me talks is just a small part of the we talk. We talk is how are we behaving and how are we achieving goals as a team. And me talk is how am I doing, what I need to do more so that I'm able to grow my team along with growing myself. And only when I'm able to do that can I grow the organization. So it's not a 1% show like we call in IKEA. It's about many people to realize the vision to create a better everyday life for the many people. And like you mentioned, we are rooted to our roots. Yes, we are rooted to our roots. When I joined, I had traveled to Sweden, and like all new joiners, I was shown the stone wall. And if you look at IKEA website, you will see on the culture and values page, there is a stone wall. So at the time of World War, when the entire world was, engaged in that World War, Sweden was not a part. And people were involved in tilling the land and taking out rocks and stones from below the ground, and they made a stone wall out of it. And then they started farming, and that in one of those farms is where our founder Ingvar Kamprad grew. So this is a little bit of snippet. Employer branding starts with the right people working for the right organization with a very strong culture and value setup. You want to take it further?
Ma'am, you can go ahead. If you have anything else to say about
I can talk a lot more. I can talk, but should I come back or should I be talking at one stretch? I don't know how you want to organize it.
No, we can complete your speech, which is around 10 to 12 minutes, and then we can have all the speakers speaking about their organization's experiences. Then we open for question answer from students.
Yeah. So, our products and our brand, especially during these last 2 years, which have been difficult for most of us, we have all been at home. And when we are at home, then we realize, how important home is to us. Otherwise, we had all been running around. So fortunately, I'm working for a home furnishings company, and the most favorite brand of home furnishings, I would say, across the world. And we have only grown during these tough times. And when the organization has grown, the people have grown also along with it. There have been logistics and transport challenges we all know across the world, and how we have catered to the supply of these products. Many shelves were empty, but there was a lot of passion in people to reach out to so many customers, so many people across the world who needed the products, who were staying at the home and who wanted to make the home more beautiful. And this drove our people to work a lot, even during these tough times. It wasn't easy for them personally. And people really worked hard to make the organization grow. And when you have that kind of mindset and passion in your co-workers, then it helps the organization grow. Another thing that we work with is we don't have very fancy titles, and we don't have a vertical growth in our organization. It is more about having the freedom to work, taking initiatives, being entrepreneurs. So all of us are entrepreneurs in our own little self, and we keep sharing our little stories of what we took our initiative as, what did we deliver, how have we done. And it is a lot about how have we done rather than how have I done. One person cannot make IKEA happen. And when we are doing this, what we are doing is that it is like a jungle gym, that you're doing working here, learning, working there, learning, then working with someone else, coming back, doing this, calling someone here, calling somewhere there. So it's a spider in the web. It is not like I'm doing everything myself alone. So that is how we usually work in IKEA. And these are the challenges, Sometimes we do wrong hiring, where people are looking for monetary growth, vertical growth, wanting to build individual strengths. And that doesn't fit into a culture and values. Because we look for people who are able to work with different people. And when you look at our products, when you pick something, whether it is made in India, made in Germany, made in Mexico, it will all look the same. So that is the standard we want to meet. And to meet that standard, we don't want to reinvent the wheel every time. So if there is something good which has happened here, we share it with everyone across the globe. If there is something good that is happening in Vietnam, then they share it with everyone across the globe. And that is how we work. Everyone is learning, everyone is growing. And yes, we allow mistakes. We allow mistake as long as we are learning from it. We don't allow people to have a I don't care kind of an attitude, who keep on committing mistakes one after the other. But when you are doing mistakes to grow, yes, we encourage that. We encourage those entrepreneurs within the organization who want to make mistakes to grow. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for this wonderful insights, Anupama. What really stayed with me is your co-workers are your brand ambassadors, and whether it is pre-COVID or post-COVID, that factor does not change. And it has to be we and not I in an organization. What a wonderful thought. Thank you so much. Moving on, our next panelist is from an exemplary brand that stands for trust, compassion, and giving back to the society. So, any guesses? Which brand am I talking about? Yeah, it is the Tatas. Our esteemed panelist, Mr. Bharat Chabra, is the head of Change Management and L&D, Tata Power Odisha. He comes with over 26 years of work experience in the areas of HR, L&D, corporate affairs, and customer relations management, with some of the leading conglomerates, namely DCM Devo and Coca-Cola India Inc. Initially, Mr. Bharat was with Tata Power DDL, where in addition to his functional role, he was also leading Tata Power DDL's Learning Center, which had emerged as preferred training partner on the capability building initiatives of Government of India, Ministry of Power through Power Finance Corporation. Presently, from June 2021 onwards, he has joined at Odisha to lead change management and learning and development for Tata Power. Sir, very warm welcome, and over to you, please.
Thank you. Thank you, co-panelists, the esteemed faculty members, and all the young students and future leaders of this country and the world. I'm very happy to be here with all of you. If it is okay, maybe I'll use that podium. See, I represent Tata Power, the power distribution company. So when in the morning, Father Anthony was sharing that in March 2020, when we were thinking of that, how do we start work from home? The challenge before us was to ensure what do we do to ensure that people can work from home? How do we ensure that you get the electricity uninterrupted 24/7? So that your mobiles are working, your Zoom calls are happening, your classes are happening, and people can work or bring in more technologies or something like IKEA, apps, etc. Everything that can work. So that was the challenge before us. So we heard in the morning from Mr. Rajeshri Ganguly also. He differentiated between the corporate brand and the employer brand. So both are different. We've all understood? We've all understood? So let's be more participative. Remember आप लोगों ने वो फिल्म देखा होगा 3 Idiots, एक डायलॉग था उसमें बड़ा फेमस, काबिल बनो, क्या था? Anybody? थोड़ा जोर से बोले ना खड़ा के. हाँ हाँ, तो नंबर्स के पीछे मत भागे, काबिल बने, कामयाबी will come after you. So this is something that I relate to what is happening at Tata, or we are fortunate to be that kind of an organization, that we were doing something that is making it a brand. Now, what is Tata? Tata is all the employees. Maybe some of you who join the Tata companies in the next few days, couple of months or years, so you are the one who are going to represent the Tata brand. So what Tata is doing to create that kind of a brand, what kind of employee value proposition can be offered, or what are the good practices that you can implement in your organizations going forward. So I'll touch upon a few of the things. We are fortunate to be part of the Tata Group. In Tata Group, we follow a replica of US-based Malcolm Baldrige model. And this model is called the Tata Business Excellence Model. So there are around 7 categories in this model, which talks about the leadership, the strategy, the customer centricity, the measurement analysis and the knowledge management, the workforce, the operational part, and the last one is the results category. So with each of those categories, each of the organization, which is a Tata organization, has to justify or answer their functioning with respect to those questions. For example, leadership. In leadership, the leadership is asked that how does your personal action promote high performance? How does your personal action promote ethical conduct? How do you set the organizational vision, mission, and values? So if that question is asked from a leader, so what will that leader answer, or what is the expectation from that leader? That you have to engage with all the stakeholders, make a collective process, bring in the innovation, do a rich political, economical, social, legal, the environment assessment, and come out and create a strategy. So then comes the strategy planning process, that how do you make that strategy planning process? How do you ensure that it is relevant? How do you ensure that it is competitive? So while making that strategy planning process, you look at the entire environment, and then comes to the implementation part of it. Then comes in the measurement analysis, that if you are doing that, are you measuring your own performance? Are you aligning with the other processes? And how are you learning from it? How are you integrating that? How are you ensuring that there is a knowledge management or that kind of a knowledge-oriented work culture in the organization? Then comes the workforce focus. We heard the previous speaker about that we try to find out the right people for the right job. So in the workforce focus, there are questions that how do you identify your capacity and capability needs? Now, capacity is the number of employees, and capability is the what kind of capabilities or the competencies which are required. What are your current competencies, and what are your going to be future competencies? And then how you develop that? How do you create that kind of an environment which is conducive for high performance? How do you allow the employees to let fail also? So there is a category called a dare to try. And then how do you promote innovation? Then comes in the operational processes, that how are your operational processes aligned? And then comes in the most important category, the results. So whatever you are saying, is it bringing in the right results? What are the trends? How it is happening, and how do you see with yourself as in comparison with the benchmark? What kind of benchmarks you are looking at? Otherwise the overall Tata Group purpose is that we be the leader in the sector that we operate while exhibiting and honoring the organizational values and framework, the integrity part of it. And then comes the safety, health safety related part of it. Now, these are certain things which are part of the TBM model, which all the leaders have to exhibit. And in going forward in implementing certain things, what we did is that not the HR is the one which is creating an employer brand. It is each of the employee, each of the leader, each of the vertical that has to make sure that they are doing the right thing. That becomes a brand. A few things that we started in the recent times is the manager scorecard. In HR, we do a lot of employee engagement surveys, and after that we try to showcase that we are doing something good, or we make some action plan. So based on that, we bifurcate the data in terms of vertical, in terms of leaders. That in your area, what kind of employee engagement scores are there? So what kind of manager scorecard should be to ensure that we go to the desired levels of employee engagement. So that is one manager scorecard, that each of the manager has to personally ensure and drive employee engagement. Then there is another term called PPDI, which is People Practices Deployment Index. Now with this PPDI, each of the manager has to ensure that their employees' competencies are assessed, their gap assessment is there, and then they are developed also. That what kind of opportunities you are providing to your employees for their further learning and growth. How are you rewarding employee? How are you engaging with the employee? How are you connecting with the employee? So based on that score comes out the PPDI score. So that becomes the score of each one of the manager. Now based on all that, their overall performance score comes in. So these are certain things that you have to be good inside to become a brand. And it is very different from the corporate brand. I do not know how many of you would have seen the Tata Steel ad that used to come. After everything, they used to say that we also make steel. Which means that an organization which has to be strong from inside has to do many more things than doing the corporate branding. And that what becomes the employer brand. And that brand is built over a period of time, not overnight. And we are happy that we are part of that Tata legacy, that in the year 1887, they started with a fund called Gratuity Fund, which Government of India implemented sometime in 1954, the Gratuities Act 1954. So in 1887, if we imagine the pre-independence area, the kind of movies that we see, what used to happen before the independence, the Mangal Pandey, the movies like that what kind of environment was there? People were struggling to survive, and Tata Company had the gratuity fund in place. In 1895, they started with the Workman Compensation Act. In case there is some accident, the company is going to help and do the compensation part of it, which sometime much later in 1923 became the Workman Accident and Compensation Act, which subsequent lot of revisions as well. And then sometime during 1901, the company had the Provident Fund scheme, which much later the Government of India implemented of what Tata was doing much before that. So this brand is not built overnight. This brand is built over a period of time. And who has built this? All the employees of the Tata Group and the stakeholders that work along with Tata Group. So that is what is about the employer brand. And if we come to the employee value proposition, we heard that term, and is very, very popular nowadays, that how do we create that employee value proposition. So employees come to an organization for what? पैसा कितना मिल रहा है, compensation क्या है, what kind of rewards are there, company का ad कितना आता है, brand क्या है, and we refer to certain सर बोल रहे ना, वो रेफरेंस चेक करते हैं कि एम्प्लॉयर का भी रेफरेंस चेक होता है कि एम्प्लॉयर किस कैटेगरी का है, उनका क्या रेपुटेशन है. सो आफ्टर दैट बट एम्प्लॉय स्टे फॉर द कल्चर एंड दे बिल्ड अप द ब्रांड. सो उसके बाद क्या चाहिए? उसके बाद चाहिए करियर ग्रोथ होगा कि नहीं होगा. आई विल बी रिकॉग्नाइज फॉर माई वर्क और नॉट. Will I get the enough opportunities for learning and growth or not? So that is what makes them be with the organization. That is what can retain them in the organization. And then going forward, जैसे Gen Z का बात किया, that they are also looking for a purpose. Are you doing something much more than for your own profits? एक वो स्वामी विवेकानंद का एक कहीं कोट था ना, that वो क्या जीते हैं जो अपने लिए ही जीते हैं, वो ही जीते हैं जो औरों के लिए भी जीते हैं. So this is what the Tata group is also believed in, that we have had that JRD statement that said that whatever we get from the business, we should ensure that many times should go back to the community that we operate in. And if we look at the COVID era, we heard that Mr. Ratan Tata was the first one to announce that we'll contribute 1500 crores for the COVID to the government fund. So that was a big thing. And we never hear Mr. Ratan Tata, the world richest or not. We never hear such kind of names of Mr. Ratan Tata. But the kind of hurt that he offers for the people, for the nation, is something much, much bigger. So this is what is the employer brand, that apne liye to karna hi hai, that how do we create value for other stakeholders. In a small place in Delhi, we had over 300 women literacy centers. And these literacy centers were operating in the slum area. In slum area, who are not our employee, who are not our big customers also, companies working with them so that we bring or improve the quality of their life. And many of those women from those slum areas were getting exploited by their own family members or their other people who were staying around them. But then when they become literate, they can live with dignity and respect. किसी को लेके नहीं जाना कि मुझे बताना कि बस का नंबर क्या है, किसी को लेके नहीं जाना कि मेरा गवर्नमेंट से अगर कुछ 1000-2000 का कुछ पेंशन आना है तो they don't get exploited. So they can write their name and see that ये इतना अमाउंट है. So that is the kind of sense of satisfaction, or the bigger purpose comes in when we have such kind of efforts and initiatives. And it is not about Tata. There are almost every organization. We also, and as in our individual capacity, also try to do something good for others. So it is not just about Tata, but I am referring to those examples which we can relate for creating that bigger employee value proposition. And another thing that comes to my mind is that we did one time we did a job passion survey index. Now what brings in, like, for the employee, the career growth, etc. Now how much is the employee passionate about the job or the role that employee, he or she is in? So we had that about the job satisfaction in terms of the work that they are doing, the kind of appreciation that they are getting while doing that work, the content part of it, the job content part of it, that the job content is matching with my knowledge, skill and competencies or not. And then the afflictive attachment, like, am I positively engaged for this or not? And then am I getting suitably rewarded? And then while doing all that, am I getting the career growth, my personal learning and development within the organization while being in that role? So based on that finding, we had made certain changes also. The reward was one such thing that we need to tell our managers that you reward and appreciate your employees more and more, talk to them more, listen to them more. Don't just tell them, but listen to them more also. So these were the things and the learnings that we did during this period. And I think I've taken a lot of your time, and I'll take a break here, and I'm open to any questions subsequently. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mr. Chabra, Anupama this side, if I can take a minute to share something, when you were talking about Tatas, I worked for Tata Steel for 9 years, and value stronger than steel. I very well resonate with that even today. It's been 15 years since I moved out of working with Tatas. But if you ask me what is the brand that I recollect most fondly, it is Tatas. And simple things like trees that were planted 100 years back on both sides of the roads, they have grown up and meet like this. And there is no overhead cabling. It is all underground. When you visit the city of Jamshedpur, which Tata's built so many years back, it beats the millennial city of Gurgaon, where it's all hanging wires. There are no drains, and if it rains, it's water flowing on the road. So this is what employer branding is. And thank you for making those memories alive.
Thank you, and I'm sure you would have also contributed while being there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bharat sir. Thank you, Anupama ma'am, for adding on those thoughts. Those were wonderful insights. And what I found is there are set systems, interventions, very, very structured, which aligns to the employee's interests and all-round development of employee for Tatas. And it's not only one way, it is two way. It is a continuous process where things are being done for the employees, feedback is being taken, and things are being improved. And that is how I think so. That is the brand we have. That is why we have that brand. One thing remains common with what Anupama ma'am told and with Bharat sir told. Employees are your brand ambassadors. They are the brand. So with that, we would move on to our next panelist, our very own distinguished alum, Mr. Magesh Ambasivan. Mr. Magesh currently serves as the Vice President, People Organization for the Asia Pacific at Assurant. With over 23 years of experience in the field of HR, Mr. Magesh possesses noteworthy expertise in the areas of leadership development, change management, mergers and acquisitions, compensation and benefits, and talent management. He has worked across the globe in organizations like HP, ANZ Bank, Accenture, and managed teams consisting of employees from different cultures and regions. Before joining Assurant, he was the head of human resources and D&I sponsor for the India Center at Society Generally Global Solution Center. There he made good use of technology to bring focus on the human part of HR. Being the diversity and inclusion lead for Society Generally in India, he was instrumental in implementing policy changes and sensitization programs, which have helped create a safe and inclusive environment while increasing diversity at the workplace and bridging the gender pay gap. Magesh sir, very warm welcome to you. You always make us proud by being here. And as I understand, Assurant is an organization who's totally into celebrating diversity and inclusion. So something that rare organizations do. So over to you, and we're wanting to hear more stories about that.
That makes me feel really old, and I hope I stay relevant in whatever I am speaking about, right? So I work for an organization called Assurant. I think all of you would not know about it. Even I didn't know about it about a year back. It's an American insurance company which works in the B2B insurance space. So basically they insure with companies. And so there's no way anyone would have known about this organization. What really drew me to this organization was their values. It was extremely simple. I have seen organizations that have different values, everything. But this was extremely simple where the values were, it was common sense, common decency, uncommon thinking, uncommon results. And I thought that was very, very simple and it encompasses everything. And that was the reason why I really moved to this organization. And it's been 6 months since I moved and I see that in action. So it's just seeing values written somewhere and seeing the values in action. These are two different things, right? And I think that's something which I really love about the organization. What I'll do is in terms of what things have changed post-COVID, right? So let me speak about a couple of things which I think in the next 1 or 2 years when many of you get into work, these would be the things which you would be facing once you get in, right? So what are we seeing here? People speak a lot about the Great Resignation. We see resignation everywhere. I work predominantly in the technology field. So when I started speaking about Great Resignation, you speak to people in Wipro, Accenture, KPMG, all these people say that, yeah, people are leaving for foreign banks. They pay more. So you go, I was working prior to this in Society General, which is a foreign bank which had the tech center in India. People are leaving the organization, foreign banks, JP Morgan, everyone, people are leaving, and you ask them where they are going. Many of them said that, hey, look, I'm going to Google, I'm going to Amazon. Then when you go to Amazon and you speak to people there, even people are leaving there. And you ask them, where are you going? People say that I want more flexibility, I want more adventure, I'm going to join startups. You then go to startups. Startups also have the problem of attrition. So what are people looking at when they join startups? And then they start leaving, they say that, hey, the culture is very different. There seems to be a mismatch because the startup culture is more what the founder says. It's not something which I'm looking for, right? So everywhere people are leaving. People are moving from one place to another. And that brings a question of what are people looking for? One is people are looking for purpose. They want to be part of while they want to be part of a bigger thing, they want to also contribute significantly to that, right? So identity in what they do is what people are looking at. They want to understand that what they do day to day, how does it contribute to the bigger picture? That's something which people are really looking at these days. And the other reason also, you might ask, wasn't this something which people did even in the past? So what is so great that, what changed in the last 2 years that people are looking at it, right? The cost of shifting really has come down. Today, it's very easy for a person to change from one organization to another. In the past, when you were changing organizations, you had to take into account things like, which city am I going to be in? What is my commute time? If I have kids, do I have good schools? Do I need to stay near the school? How far would be my office from the school? But today, nothing changes. Take my example, right? I moved during the pandemic. Jan 25th, 2022 was my last day with my previous organization. 26th was the holiday. 27th was I joined that other organization. And absolutely nothing changed for me. I was working from home. I still went and sat at the same desk. I had a laptop, and unfortunately or fortunately, it was the same model as the one which I had before. My email ID was magesh.sambasivan@socgen.com. It is now magesh.sambasivan@assurant.com. So when I logged into Zoom, it's just the people on the other side who changed. So the net cost of changing really didn't. There was not there. There was no cost associated with it, right? And that's the reason why you see a lot of changes, people shifting in the last 2 years, because the cost of change was not really great. Now with people being asked to come back to work, you will see that change. People are looking for purpose in the work, and they are looking at quality of work also. That's something which people are now saying, I'm fine if you pay me more money, that's all okay. But then is it really adding value to me? Am I adding value to the organization? So that's a question which you should be ready to articulate when you start working in an organization as a HR professional. The other one is flexibility. People are looking at flexibility because they are used to flexibility in the last 2 years. Working from home, you could work at different time zones, everything. So people are looking for flexibility, and organizations need to be cognizant of it. And flexibility is different for different people, right? It doesn't mean that for some it might be coming 2 days to work. For some it might be getting time off when they want to drop their kids at school. For some it could be flexibility to follow a passion when they are at work. So when the question of flexibility comes, you need to look at how do you really personalize flexibility for each individual. And as an organization, you would want predictability as an organization. Now, when you look at organizations saying, I need people to come in 2 days to work or 3 days to work, culture, people coming in, being parts of the team is one thing which they are looking at. The other thing is also predictability in terms of how much workspace should I need? How much do I invest in terms of my infrastructure? So all these, and when do I know who's going to be in office? If it's going to be 2 days a week, if people have the flexibility to come in whenever they want, everything goes for a toss, right? You can't have 100 people coming into office which has 40 seats. So that's the reason why organizations are looking at, that's a catch here. How do you offer flexibility to employees? At the same time, how do you have predictability in terms of how you know who's going to come where, when? The third thing which is happening a lot these days is on diversity and inclusion. How do you become a much more diverse organization where you get people from different backgrounds? The reason why people are speaking about diversity is you bring in different perspectives. When people come with different backgrounds, ethnic, gender, age, everything, people bring in a lot of perspectives. That's the diversity part. Diversity is not about just meeting numbers. It's also how do you ensure that these people are heard. And that's when being inclusive also comes into play. And let's take a step back, right? So why do you want diversity and inclusion? Most of the time, people have different versions of it. Some of them say that they set targets and people work towards targets. That's one way of forcing it. But the minute you set targets, it becomes more like I need to meet a number. People don't understand the purpose behind it. Why are we setting targets? At the end of the day, you want to be a fair person. You want everyone to be given a fair chance. And that's what really diversity and inclusion is about, right? People bring their strengths to the table and they are treated in a very fair manner. And somewhere the way we communicate it, we as HR professionals sometimes, our intent is right, but the way we communicate it sort of puts things in a very different perspective. Let me share something, for example, right? One is the gender pay parity exercise. Many organizations do it. And the minute you say gender pay parity exercise, people start thinking money is being taken from men and given to women. That's the first thing people say, right? And then you have everyone opposing it, saying that why, because of my gender, someone else gets a higher increase while I'm not getting an increase, what I am supposed to get is going to, it takes a very different turn. But what are you trying to do in essence? You are trying to bring fairness in the system. So why don't you look at it as a pay fairness exercise? So when you say pay fairness exercise, people who are below a particular this thing, you try to bridge the gap. It could be men, it could be women. And when you do it, because of the way it's it's structured, maybe 95 women will benefit and 5 men will benefit. So be it. It's all about how do you position whatever you are doing, right? And that's something which I find in HR. We sometimes our intent is right, but the way we communicate it, the way we position it is going to be very different. And I think Professor Andrew also spoke about LGBTQ+. It's not about getting more people from various communities into the workplace. It's about making the workplace a safe place for people of different people of the LGBT community to come in and be comfortable. Someone who's not part of the community, we don't understand, right? In my previous organization, I did get a person who was a gay to come and mentor me, to let me know what are the things which he faced in the community at the workplace while growing up, everything. And it's very different. All of us do not even understand what they go through unless you hear from them and unless you know from them, right? It's at various parts of their life, they are subject to different sorts of, I might even say, torture because of their orientation preferences. And what we are trying to do is make the workplace a much more safer place for them to come in. And the fourth trend which you are going to see is people are going to get very environment conscious. That's one of the things that I'm seeing, right? People come in and ask, I've seen a lot of people come into the organization. The first thing they ask is plastic bottles. That was a big thing 2 years back. And now it's reached a stage, right? People are looking at green code, right? In terms of the code which you write, how many read-write, how much heat is generated because of the various read-write cycles, everything. So it's gone to that level of things which people are questioning about, right? So that's one. And the final one which people are looking for is really inspirational leadership. They want leaders to really walk the talk. They want leaders to mean what they say. And they expect leaders to have a point of view. Being a leader today is very difficult because you have different people who come with different ideologies who expect your point of view. And at any point of time, you give your point of view, there would be people opposing it too. And you need to be clear about what you stand for. And that's something which people are expecting for in leaders today. A lot of times people expect quicker reaction times. And as a leader, you need to start working more like you won't have all the data. You need to have 50 or 60% of the data and you need to start making informed decisions. So that's also something which people are looking at. So if I were to summarize, what are the challenges you will face? It's going to be one, people are looking at purpose in their work. People are looking at flexibility. The third one is in terms of diversity and inclusion. Fourth is environment. People are getting more environmental consciousness. And the fifth one is leadership. And if I might just throw in one more thing, again, now the world is highly interconnected, right? So there's nothing like you can just see what works in one country will not work in other countries. So people talk. The world is very highly connected. So that's something which you all should be aware of. HR has become a very, very different field. It's no longer that if you are having experience in one geography or one country, that's going to be enough. You need to know much about what's happening around the world and how each of these things are interrelated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Magesh, for those wonderful thoughts and for wonderfully summarizing all those 5-6 points that have changed and could be a challenge. So while Anupama ma'am, Bharat sir spoke about things which are fundamental to employer branding and would not change ever, we now have things that have changed because of the changing work arrangements, changing business environment, and things that we should be careful about. Thank you so much.
Dr. Patnaik?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, since I'm sitting so far away, so I feel the need to express maybe more. And when I listen to my fellow panelists, then a lot of thoughts trigger. especially when I hear you talking about flexi working hours, hot desking, diversity, etc. And when I was saying that things haven't changed due to COVID because these things are taken for granted in our workplace. In IKEA, we introduced hot desking in our India office in 2015. So long before COVID came, we had 50% less seats, and we have been working with flexi hours since the time I've joined. So there were, when I was being hired in the interview, I said, I come in very early at 8 o'clock, and my hiring manager said, you'll find a lot of people because there are many who come at 6 and leave at 12. So you are free to come, you are free to go, you are free to manage your time, and there's hot desking. And when it comes to how to include diversity into our organization, we are in a supply organization where our suppliers are spread across the country, and most of these factories are not in the cities. They are 2 hours, 3 hours drive away from the cities at locations which are difficult to reach. And then when we are providing our female co-workers with a safe car and a driver to go there, come, and even in the factory premises, a culture where they can walk with pride, share their competence, and not feel harassed at any point in time. So this is what ensures that we are at a 50-50 of female and male diversity, including many cultures across the world. And that gives a sense of pride. So COVID, no COVID, hybrid, no hybrid. I think it's high time that everyone starts adapting these at the workplace.
Yes, we totally agree to you, ma'am. Yes, thank you so much. So, moving on, I now take the opportunity to introduce to you our last panelist for the discussion, Mr. Ibadat Dhillon. Mr. Ibadat is associated with KPMG India as the Director HR. With over 14 years of experience in HR field, Mr. Dhillon specializes in enhancing talent mindset and culture by reinventing talent and performance management practices. His corpus of work focuses heavily on developing a vibrant organizational ecosystem that fosters and equips its employees to live their lives with pride and zeal. Before joining KPMG, Mr. Dhillon worked with HCL Technologies under the Learning and Development vertical. He holds an MBA degree in Human Resources and Marketing from the Indian Institute of Planning and Management. He is deeply interested in future of work and regularly monitors advances in this area. KPMG as a brand takes pride in providing unique learning opportunities and exposure to its employees. Mr. Dhillon, I think that is something that KPMG always does, and that is something employees look forward to when they join the organization. So with this, I invite you to share your thoughts, and the space is all yours.
Sure. Thank you. So, thank you so much. I think just hearing all the panelists, esteemed faculty members, and all those who've spoken to sort of put this into perspective for students who are going to be joining the corporate life pretty soon. One thing needs to be fundamentally understood for you when you go ahead and start off your journey on embarking yourselves as HR professionals. We are not thinking of employees anymore. We're thinking of people, right? That's a fundamental transition to say that we are not looking only at work life, we are looking at life experience. So work experience goes out of the window. We're looking to offer life experiences to people when they enter the fraternity or enter any organization for that matter. I think the last element for us is around the aspect of feeling over features. So I think Rajarshi spoke about this, as a lot of organizations today are throwing frills out in the market. You'd hear of a couple of startups offering tickets to the World Cup, fancy bikes, cars. Those frills die out eventually, right? And if you try to keep pace with them, that's not your compete organization that you want to go ahead and try and put yourself up to. We spoke, I think, briefly about the importance of values, the shared purpose. So that is where we are heading towards. When we are looking at an employer brand, the erstwhile mindset was we have an employee, we have to give him an enhanced work experience, and here are the features which will, essentially enable that experience. That has gone out the window, and the essential outcome of that is the war for talent, which is going on. People are leaving for industries they've never been associated with before, right? Someone working in consulting going into hospitality, someone working in hospitality coming into consulting, and that is the plethora of opportunities which the pandemic itself has opened up. Now, when we look at it from perspective, when we are looking to create an employer brand, 5 facets for me stand out, right? One is around the fact of deeper connections at the workplace. Your workplace is no longer somewhere you go. It is why you go and essentially what you do. That is what, sort of essentially matters. I think Bharat spoke about very briefly on leaders walking the talk and the value system of the organization playing itself out right from day one. So that is the differentiator where, let's say, on day one, you're receiving that phone call from your, performance manager, your leader, and asking you on your well-being. You know what? You're sitting in front of a laptop. You've joined from one organization to the other. Apart from frogs croaking in the background, what else has changed for you? And getting over that ambiguity, getting over that anxiousness to join the organization is where the differentiator and the connection is established, where leaders really feel that this is how he must be feeling or how he or she must be feeling, and that's where you want to sort of create that differentiator. Secondly, radical flexibility. We can no longer think of the archaic ways of saying, I want you here 5 days in office. Yes, we have strong American CEOs tweeting about it, and sort of causing a Twitter furor about things. But essentially, that for us, most of us, will reasonably believe that that era has, gone. There will be industries which will continue to require people to be in office. There will be industries which will have no other option but to offer hybrid, hyper-personalized experiences around flexibility. And that is how, the game has shaped itself now. Third aspect, personal and professional growth. Leaders can no longer think of, involving only the top rung of the leadership within the organization to pay the compensation that they desire. You have to share a pie of the profits with staff at large, with people at large. And that is how they will fundamentally value what you are expecting them to, contribute to. We speak about this aspect of, and the fourth one, which I'm sort of drawing attention to, is around holistic well-being. Well-being is not just you getting, a few days of leave when you want to, or come in when you want to. Well-being is about social, economic, mental state of well-being. I mean, today you have counselors at work who will help you get over those imbalances in life. You have personal situations. We've had anecdotal incidents where people who were working in a singular setup, not entered the marriage space as yet, will share very diverse, very different work experience from home vis-a-vis those with kids, with family, with people to care to, elders, folks at home. And that is where, you have to draw attention to the fact that all of those, people are important, whether be coming in from a younger workforce or those from a more experienced, workforce itself. I think the last one is around the shared purpose. Like a lot of our panelists spoke about purpose being the core which binds everything together. Your policies, your processes, your infrastructure, your leaders, and essentially the employee experience or the people experience that you lay on has to talk to the purpose that you stand here for. At least within the firm in KPMG in India, we speak very proudly about the diversity of the services that we cater to. There are service lines which, associate themselves with the houses of the Tatas, the Mahindras, and, we essentially pride ourselves in the fact that, we bond with these organizations of the various types of nation building exercises that they undertake. And there have been people who, essentially, and again, so I think Magesh spoke about the compensation element. Trust me, people do not eventually, join only for compensation. They ask for deeper meanings of what they do, and that is where it lays emphasis on. Anupama very briefly spoke about 9 years of her association being the fondest memory and the most heartfelt way in which she remembers her association of professional career. And I think the core of all of this has to be the culture, and which will determine your EVP statement. Your EVP statement is nothing but a give and get. You invest your time, effort, and energy in us as an organization, and you get this. I think Bharat spoke about the fact that if your EVP statement does not hold true on day one, and you're going to get that person out of the organization pretty soon. So in a nutshell, I would say that all of these are contributing factors to how the transitory mindset and the tilt has happened from looking at it with a very singular work perspective to a life perspective and what the organization stands for. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Dhillon, for talking to us about a deeper connectedness with the workplace and work. It was really wonderful to listen to you. Now we open the space for question and answers from students so that our panelists and you people can interact. However, there is a request for Anupama ma'am to be able to hear to you. Students who want to pose any questions can please come over here, pose your question from the dais so that it is clear to our online speaker as well. Yeah, Malar, you want to pose a question? Okay.
A very good afternoon, everyone. My question is for Mr. Ibadat Dhillon. Sir, you spoke about holistic and hyper-personalized practices and how organizations are going about it as a factor for employee branding. So in organizations that are larger in size and maybe organizations that have taller hierarchies or structures, how does this work out at the shop floor level where things cannot be as personalized as we want them to be?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question. I'll take the example of KPMG itself, right, where we have about a hierarchy of about 18, right, till the time that you reach to partnership, and then subsequently there are leadership roles. The way we functionally realize this is that we cannot go ahead and do something which is one size fits all, right? So the one thing that every organization needs to do is decentralize decision making, right? Keep it at the level where you will be able to monitor, but at the same point in time, you're not doing it with a mindset to reduce flexibility. You're doing it to maintain the basic levels of productivity which you would expect employees who are working in an autonomous manner to, in any case, kind of go ahead with. So we've got something called SWITCH, a sustainable well-being initiative towards collective happiness in teams. So SWITCH is some of the mindsets that we are trying to sort of inculcate in teams as a mindset, right? No amount of communication from the leadership is going to let people enjoy that flexibility till the time that they don't decide for themselves. So as Magesh mentioned, flexibility means different things for different people. There are workforce which is very diverse. Someone is an analyst who's right a graduate. There is someone who's got 20 years of experience. Very diverse expectations on on flexibility. Someone likes coming to office because that is where their focus area is, and someone hates the very thought of office. But the thought of collaboration at some point in time happening as a team, while at the same point in time maintaining a consistent experience for everyone, that's what we should focus on.
Yeah. If I may just add to what he said, right? Most of the times we misunderstand flexibility. Flexibility doesn't mean that you get to do what you want to do. There must be this thing which you also need to understand this within the organizational context. Let me give you an example. I had to last week I had a meeting where I had to connect with people from Australia, Argentina, and India. I have to be cognizant of the fact that their working hours are very different. But at the same time, I cannot get everyone at their working hours, right? People need to understand. For some of them, it would be late night. There are days when people in Argentina take calls at 6 in the morning. There are days when people in Australia take calls at 9 at night. And sometimes in India, you take calls at 9:30, 10 at night, right? You need to get work done. And within the the concept of getting work done, you offer as much flexibility as possible. That's what flexibility and hyper personalization is, right? It's not you demand everything the way you want and you expect the organization to provide everything each individual wants.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jahanvi Saluja. My question is, how can a company communicate how it has integrated hybrid working model into the company culture and thus improve candidate experience?
So your question is for the whole panel?
Yeah.
You want to go first, or should I? Okay. All right. So I think there are when you understand fundamentally what your EVP is and hybrid working being a part and a core of your EVP, you look at inculcating that EVP into various facets. One, your candidate, elevator pitch itself. So when you're speaking to prospective candidates, you're putting this out on social media. Your leaders, who are going in at various forums within the organization first, right, will speak about it, and the softer elements to it. The fact that your CEO, let's say, is working from home on a town hall sends a message, and there's a softer message around that, right? The fact that you will have, women leaders, who are sort of instilling other women leaders to kind of say, encourage your team members to kind of work from anywhere. That sends a message. And all of these are, essential elements which you speak about first internally within the organization. Then, at some point in time, as the tide begins to happen, your employees itself become influencers. And they become your testimonials for prospective candidates. When you're talking about, someone spoke, Rajarshi, I think, spoke about it, that just like how you do a ref check on how he was or she was in the past, similarly, there are candidates who will, sort of speak about it and then get validation. Yeah.
Hope it has answered your question. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Akhil Mathur. So, Magesh sir, you spoke about environment consciousness and the green code as one of the key factors, for employer branding. So, from that lens, how do the CSR activities of any company become important, and how do they impact the employer branding? And this question is open to everyone.
In terms of CSR activity, initially that used to be very driven by the company, right? The company would pick up certain activities that they want to do as part of their CSR initiative, and they'll go ahead and do it. Now it's becoming much more inclusive, where companies ask employees as to what are the things which you are passionate about, what are the causes which you are passionate about, and then companies make their CSR activities around that, right? So in the past, you will have companies saying, hey, we will focus on these 3 areas because this ties in with what we as a larger organization do. But now you see companies saying that in this particular part of the world, this is what's important. And this is what my employees in this part of the world feel that they should be doing. And so you do that for that particular thing, right? Different places. For example, if you look at it in Assurant, different regions of the world, we do different things, right? In India, we are looking at trying to see how we can get more primary education. That's one of the areas, right? How we can ensure that more kids come to school. While in the US, it's something very different, where you will be looking at how do I bring in much more diverse workforce? How do I this thing? In some places, you look at how do I reduce domestic violence? So each one of the things, each different regions, different people have different things which they want to contribute to, and then companies do that. And so no longer can see, this again goes back to your hyper personalization, right? You join a company, you have a cause which you are passionate about. There are a group of people who are passionate about that. The organization helps you towards that. That's how even in CSR you are seeing the hyper personalization come in.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kaveri Premvada. My question is to Anupama ma'am. So, like, employer branding is evolving every day and it exists no matter from where the team is working. Also, it cannot be contained within the four walls of a workplace. So, how it can be communicated virtually since it's the hybrid work model which is going on? So, what's your thought, ma'am, on this?
So I can share how we have been working for the last 2 years and how we work today and how we worked pre-COVID. And essentially, not a lot has changed how we have been working, which I shared a couple of times during this hour. We have been working in the hybrid mode even before we started this hybrid mode culture, because we have a suppliers located across the region and sometimes they are very difficult to reach to. So we work with technology, we work with 360-degree cameras at the various factory floors where we have the suppliers taking us through and then we are working with them alongside. We have product designing which is done with 3D imaging online with many of our suppliers. So technology plays a very big role in how we are able to work in this hybrid culture. So it is not about being present in the office itself, it is about being present where we are required to be present. And at particular points of time, we are required to be present at the store where our customers are picking up the products. So we know what the customer is liking, what the customer is not liking. And then bringing it back into how we want to design that product, taking the inputs from the customer. When we were talking about CSR activities, so the CSR activities, one part is what is required by the organization to do. We are lucky that we can bring about this corporate social responsibility into the products that we are selling. So how we are behaving when it comes to designing our products, by whom it is being designed. So we have next generation social entrepreneurs, the women sitting somewhere in Rajasthan who are making handcrafted cushion covers and it is being sold across the world. So that is the kind of impact that we have with our products when it comes to corporate social responsibility. Then at our suppliers, the ones who are more advanced in terms of technology, they have a water treatment, they have solar paneling. Even in our stores, most of our stores which are located in locations where we have a lot of sunroof, we have solar paneling, and they're completely dependent on natural energy for running the entire stores. So these are not just employer branding, but this is something we are proud of. And when we are proud of, we feel that all the people who are associated with us, our suppliers, our business partners, our customers, they are also equally proud. When we are using recycled plastics to design products like hangers, etc., or stools, which do not have food grade plastic, but we can use recycled plastic for those products. How can we use recycled cotton for our products? How can we use waste from the factories for filling material in soft toys? So we are making those small things to create a big impact for the society and also make our co-workers feel proud of what they are doing.
Thank you, ma'am. This answers my question.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Any other questions? So we would love to continue. We could go on and on if we did not have the time constraint. But since we have the time constraint, we would need to stop now. We come to the end of panel 1, and I'm so grateful to all the panelists here for sharing so wonderful thoughts with us. Thoughts that we do not get to read anywhere. So thank you so much. I think I have just picked up one summary from what all of you have told, and that is employers today are moving from employee to people, from features to feelings, from job experience to life experiences, from profits to society, and probably from I to we. that Anupama ma'am had started with. And that's where a brand is being built every day and by everyone in the organization. So thank you all. Thank you so much for being here. And with this, we come to the end of panel discussion 1. Kadambari, over to you.
I take this opportunity to thank our esteemed speakers for such an enriching discussion and Dr. Shubhra Patnaik for moderating the session. Now, I request our respected Dean, Dr. Andrew Datta, to please felicitate our esteemed guest by presenting a small token of appreciation.
Anupama, although you are there virtually, the felicitation is there for you in all our hearts. And I'm sure that someday you will be with us here physically present, and we'll be so glad to hand you over that felicitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
With this, we break for lunch. I request all the students to assemble back for the second panel discussion at 1:45 p.m. sharp.
Yeah, very much.
Welcome back, everyone. We are now starting with our last and second panel discussion for the day. The theme for our second panel of the day is Employer Branding as a Tool to Enhance Economic Growth for Firms. Most global CEO surveys highlight that talent issues are keeping CEOs sleepless across the globe. Having a skilled and talented workforce is the only way to innovate, grow, compete, and sustain businesses. Can employer branding activities contribute to the firm's economic growth? If yes, then in what ways? We have 3 distinguished HR leaders with us in this panel today to deliberate on such aspects. This panel discussion will be moderated by Dr. Arup Roy Chaudhary, School of Human Resource Management, XIM University. Now, I request Kalpana ma'am to please come and present saplings to the speakers. Now, I hand over the session to you, sir.
Thank you, and good afternoon all. So, first session we have already discussed about employer branding and all. So this one is very interesting topic, that how this employer branding is going to impact the firm's performance. So I have 3 very powerful yet simple lines, but very powerful lines in my mind. One is that a saying by Tony CA, your culture is your brand. That is one. Second, being associated with Tata Steel for almost 20 years, I always heard one line statement, where you come first. That's a very powerful thing when we define the employer brand. And in fact, last week I had a discussion with one of my students of XLRI who has joined McKinsey. So when I asked him that, how do you define employer brand? So very aptly he said, the first day itself we are told, don't just come to work, come to change. So let's quickly have a look, because I do not want to stand between the learned panelist and you. So let's quickly look at few organizations like Netflix, you all know. So binge watching the latest must-see series is a way of life for most of us now. Capitalizing on the trend, Netflix evolved from the somewhat clunky business model of renting DVDs by mail to be the streaming platform of choice for most of us. Netflix employees are attracted to the company's family focused employer brand in the same way customers have flocked to the corporate brand for years. So, Netflix employees can return to work part or full time after parental leave, allocate salary earnings into Netflix stock options. So, in a way, you can see that a successful employer brand is one that reflects your customer facing brand. So, it is one where employees can expect the same thing from a brand as its customers do. So, what I would like to set the context with few questions which I expect the panelists would cover. Number one, that why is keeping a strong employer branding so important for companies nowadays? Or why do modern organizations spend tremendously on employer branding? Now, when we talk of benefits, there can be several tangible and intangible benefits to be had with employer branding. So, how does employer branding improve business ROI? We also say that employer branding can directly impact a company's reputation, and reputation is a significant factor for business growth. So, in some statistics suggest that 64% of consumers they stop purchasing a brand after hearing news of that company's poor employee treatment. So, what's the real impact employer branding has on the company's reputation? So, with these few words, now I invite Mr. Ankush Arora, Chief Human Resource Officer, Oxen Partners, to share his views.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhary, for a warm welcome. It's always a pleasure to come back to your second home, I would call. Last time I visited this campus was in 2017. None of this infrastructure was there. It was still under construction. I am from the 2002-2004 batch, so my memories of XIM are very much limited to the old campus. My apologies for that, but more trips here probably will overpower those memories. I think the topic of employer branding, very pertinent today, pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID. The paradigm of employer brand has changed. The way we used to look at employer branding in a pre-COVID era vis-a-vis what we do now is very different. So I think that also needs to be taken into account when we are talking of employer branding, what organizations are doing, what it expects its people to do. And I think the earlier panel had some very good pointers around, how employer brands are being developed, the values behind it. And I think Mr. Dhillon from KPMG made a very valid point that they don't call people employees. They are more around what we are doing for people. In fact, in my organization, we also have eliminated the word employee from everywhere. We no longer address anyone as an employee. It's team member. All our emails, all our policies, everything carry the word team member. We don't call anyone. So even if we have to do a employee engagement survey, we don't call it as an employee engagement survey, we'll do it as team member engagement survey. So coming to the point that, what does employer brand means today? So if you look at brand in general, so there is a financial view of it, there is a customer-centric view of it, and there is an employee view of it. So when an employee or an employer looks at a brand, the first question that you need to ask, is this the preferred place for me to work? When a customer looks at a brand, customer will look at it from a point of view, is this the preferred place for me to do my business? And now when a finance person will look at a brand, the finance person will look at it from a point of view, is this the place for me to invest my money in? Right? Now, the earlier panel spoke a lot about the importance of building a brand, what factors go into it, especially in the hybrid mode that we are all operating. But nonetheless, the harsh reality is that we are in the business, right? We are not in a not-for-profit kind of an environment, right? Businesses need to run. People who are working with an organization need to get paid, right? Organizations are in the business of making profit. So invariably, the finance angle will come into the picture even when we talk of an employer brand. Now, the question is that it's a classical, CHRO versus a CFO discussion, right? The CHRO will seek more and more budgets about building a brand from an employer point of view. The chief marketing officer will seek more money from building a brand from a corporate or a company brand point of view. The CFO is going to ask only one question: where is the ROI? Where do I see the margins growing up? Where do I see the profits growing up? Right? So building an employer brand, very much essential. But if we build the employer brand with some tangible results in our focus, I think it will be far more effective. Now, I was going through some studies. I think Sears Retail in UK did this study that with every 5% increase on an employee engagement score, the net revenue of the organization jumped by 1.5%. And the contribution margin jumped by 4%. Now, these are all numbers which will make any CFO happy, right? So I think it comes back to us as the custodian of an employer brand, that can we assign some tangible metrics to it? I know it's difficult, but if with right amount of focus, if you start plowing in the numbers, right, the bottom line of the organization definitely will have an impact. The other point which Professor Chaudhary brought up was how customers view it from a reputation point of view. We've seen so many examples around us where, maybe it's anecdotal or incidental, maybe it's a small dip, but with any bad incident or any bad PR coverage that happens for a particular brand, you see a dissociation associated with a particular brand. Classical example these days, Bollywood, the boycott trend, right, which is going on. All the big brands of Bollywood are struggling for it, right? So that's the power that consumer entails, and that is where it is equally important when an employer brand is being built, right? It has to have a customer-centric view. Now, who are the customers for an employer brand? It is the talent that we are hosting currently and the talent that we are trying to get from the market. These bright young people sitting across the room, this is the customer set for me as a employer brand, right? You guys will go on Glassdoor, you guys will go on Indeed, you will check with your seniors, you will check with your faculty, right? You will do a diligence before coming on board. So just to summarize, I think employer brand is a must for every organization, but it has to be done slightly more scientifically, slightly more focused from a customer point of view, from a financial point of view, and from a people point of view.
Thank you, Mr. Anish. It was a highly insightful and intuitive thoughts. So we heard Mr. Ankush Arora, who comes with nearly 2 decades of experience in the field of HR, and currently he holds the position of CHRO at XIM Partners, where he is enabling XIM Partners to establish a strong HR function that acts as an enabler of organizational growth and change. His forte lies in seeking new opportunities in building and sustaining national competitive advantage through people management and tangible value creation. And he has showcased this skill. So, few key insights, what he has reflected on. Number one, so that was very intuitive one, that every 5% increase in employee engagement will result in an increase of revenue by almost 1.5%. So it's a food for thought. And second important thing which he has summarized, that when we talk of employer brand and all, it has to be done more scientifically rather than just speaking those catchy lines and all. So thank you, sir, for your views. And now I invite Ms. Uma Rao, who is the Chief Human Resource Officer at Granules India, a pharmaceutical product manufacturing company. And before joining Granules, Uma was associated with organizations like TCS, Idea Cellular, Hindustan Petroleum, HIL, IBM, Ashok Leland. She has having 30 years of experience in HR functions like strategic HR, contemporary HR policies, business HR partnering, talent management, compensation and benefits, merger and acquisition. So she is here to enlighten our minds with a rich HR knowledge. So we welcome you, Uma, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Arup and the other panelists, esteemed panelists, and of course, all the others present there from XIM. Thank you very much for the invite. I assume you're able to hear me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I think it was wonderful to hear the views of the speaker. And I completely agree with what has been stated so far. And I think in the very introduction, as Professor Arup has mentioned, this is gaining a lot of traction in today's business world, because it's not just about your product or your processes, but it's got a lot to do with the way people perceive the organization, right? So you could have a great product, but if people don't know you, then you are not seen as a preferred destination for people to look at. And so my views are around looking at this perception and doing the right things by every organization to maintain the right perception about the organization. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, many things begin with the perception, then they actually experience the reality, and then they continue to enhance that perception such that it becomes cyclic in a way when people are talking about an employer brand. Yeah. So classically in HR, I think we have always studied about how to attract and how to develop and how to retain people. Yeah. I mean, that has been one of the most important job of HR, I would say. And when we look at these three aspects, they're so closely connected with the employer branding that we're talking about. You can only attract people if your brand has got a strong presence. You can keep them with you if your brand has got a great traction. And when you keep people, you can develop them further. And when they start growing and experiencing success in an organization, they in turn become your brand ambassadors, and then they enhance the image of the organization further. So I think the classic functions of HR are so closely related to employer branding. And it may not be an exaggeration to say in today's terms that HR has become almost like a marketing function, right? You have to do all the things that a marketing function does in addition to all the work that you need to do in HR. And therefore, a lot of MBAs who take HR and marketing as a combination, and I believe it's a great combination because it really helps you as you go forward in terms of positioning. Now, going back to the topic of employer branding again, why does it assume so much of importance? Today, I think there is a lot of transparency and a huge access to information around practically everything that you can think of. Organizations are not spared of this. So if you look at some of the surveys and research done by some of the agencies like Glassdoor, and I think the speaker was just referring to that, Glassdoor, 92% of the employees, decide which organization to join on the basis of the social reputation of the organization. Okay, this is significant, 92%. But you can always argue and say, well, how many companies are part of Glassdoor? Don't be surprised, friends, that most of the companies will come within the ambit of organizations like this sooner or later, because their whole reputation is becoming stronger and more important of an indicator for people to look at their careers. 86% of the job seekers, according to the study, do not want to work in an organization that does not have a good social reputation, right? So it's not just your business results, it's how you get your business results and how you project yourself in the outside to the whole world through the media. That becomes one of the very important indicators for people to look at. And therefore, what is my takeaway from this topic? I think the most important takeaway for me and perhaps a lot of you would be that we need to proactively manage it. Reputations don't get built by themselves. In the past, yes, there used to be a situation where 10 people would tell you, and then people would know, and then things happen. Because word of the mouth was a very important way of advertising in the olden world. But today, we've got so many channels which are available for individuals to look at and decipher for themselves about organizations, about products, about practically everything, right? You need to, you probably get into the web to understand whether you want to buy a particular phone, whether you want to go to a particular destination, whether you want to work with a particular organization in terms of your holiday plan, etc. So I think it's going to be the reality of world that is the same for jobs. Therefore, there's a very strong need for us to manage this reputation proactively. And let me tell you a little anecdote here. I used to work for this FMCG organization known as Mars International, which is into chocolates and pet food, right? You would have seen Snickers, Mars, and Pedigree, and all of that. This organization is not a listed organization. It's a family-run organization, right? It was a $34 billion company, and very huge, huge 1 billion brands, gums, chocolates, all of that. And suddenly, one day, a lot of stuff which wasn't true about the organization was written in the press. And obviously then the family got very concerned about it, and they sort of said, no, this is not right. And, how can you put things like this? And immediately, the guys who had written it said that, well, what do we do? Because when we reach out, we are not getting an audience. We don't get to know what is happening because nobody wants to speak to us. Remember, in a listed company, it's an obligation for an organization to go out and declare the public results, as well as talk about what the company is doing. You need to produce the annual report, right? You do a lot of interface with the stakeholders. Whereas a private organization need not do that because statutorily there's no requirement for doing that. So despite being an organization which is so large, despite being an organization which had several $1 billion brands in it, they actually had to reach out to these guys and tell them, no, look, this is not right. And then tell us what is right, because we want to know about your organization. So remember that having great brands with a great P&L alone may not be enough in today's world. You actually need to talk about what your organization stands for. Why should it be a place for someone to look at in terms of employment or suppliers or any kind of relationship building with the organization? And therefore, the key point which I'm trying to say is you need to proactively manage it. Okay, it just doesn't happen anymore. Number two, very important point is it's about employee experience, right? Brands are about employee experience. what do we mean by employee experience? The way, an organization, lays out its recruitment process, the way it lays down its development process for its employees, the way the appraisals and performance management is done, the way people are treated when there are such sort of personal situations, right? Could be a medical emergency, could be something else, which is very close to the individual and the person is suffering for some reason or the other. Or the way we take care of certain things which are career related. For example, you send somebody outside into a foreign country for an assignment. How do you treat that individual there when they go? And what kind of comfort do you give to that individual in a new place with a different culture altogether, right? These are things that make up people's experiences on a day-to-day basis. Absolutely, right? And then also when somebody exits from the organization, how do you treat them? Are you doing their settlements on time? Are you doing the full and final settlements on time? Are you giving their service certificate on time? All of these things add to the experience of an individual. It's like you and me as customers of a product, right? I mean, so when you go into a good place, I mean, let's take a Starbucks, right? When you go there, you pay a lot for a coffee, right? A coffee is not going to cost you so much outside. But when you pay a lot of money for that coffee, you expect a certain experience. You expect to be greeted. You expect to have a good place to sit. You expect the person who's taking the order to keep you waiting in the minimum time. You expect that you get a great cup of coffee and all of that. And then suddenly when the coffee comes in front of you, maybe with some kind of a design on the foam, and it comes with a little smiley on the paper tissue that you have, and somebody comes and says, would you like to have this? And now we've got a new variant of jaggery as well. Would you like that? How do you feel? You feel so special, right? It's a cup of coffee, but you feel so special. And this is the job of the individual every day, day in and day out. But when they bring that special feeling onto us, we love that place and we want to go back again. That's pretty much how organizations are today. If you're going to treat somebody badly and save a few bucks by not being fair with the individual, believe me, guys, it's going to come back and eat you up, gobble you up in terms of your reputation, because people wouldn't hesitate a minute to put it out there. So what does it mean, therefore, for organizations? It means that organizations have to be really, number one, proactive. 2 is very sensitive towards people, right? 3 is be fair. Yeah, have your processes which are fair so that employees get the same experience no matter which process they're talking about, right? And 4th is, continuously message the right things to the people. That communication and messaging is very, very important. If you have done something out of the way, let people know about it. Okay? A lot of companies have done fabulous work during the pandemic. Few companies have really drummed it up to their employees, and employees have experienced it, and there's a huge sense of pride in people. Few organizations have not done anything about it, so even if they may have done a lot of work, it just doesn't get spoken about. And people may actually think, oh yeah, well, everybody did it and this company has done it. No, everything is an effort that companies put, and they need to communicate that in the right forum so that people get it, absorb it, and they're able to replay it whenever you do. That's what happens when you go for a great place to work survey or best employers survey. What happens there? Your constant messaging, your constant providing of great experiences, your constant fairness in the processes that you roll out is what becomes the recollect in people's mind. So when somebody asks them, what do you think about this company? They say, yeah, it's a great company because we do all these things. Yeah. I mean, so many companies may be doing it, but the companies which consistently do it and manage the communication well are the ones who get a brand recall very quickly. And I think that is the key point for us. Fairness in terms of the way you roll out your benefits, policies, fairness in terms of the way you help people develop their careers, fairness in every aspect of the employee, I think is also something very important in today's transparent world. We're all living in glass doors. So to summarize, I would say that it's very important to keep these things in mind and for every organization to craft a very thoughtful employee value proposition, right? And this is a very important exercise that every organization must take up because what it does is it actually outlines that unique, the unique benefits an employee can expect in exchange of what? They're giving you something, so you're giving them something. They give their skills and performance, and in exchange, organization provides certain benefits to the individuals. I think this is a very equal relationship, and if it is articulated well in the employee value proposition, then you can showcase your organization against that EVP and actually take it from social media to your website, into your job descriptions, etc. You can actually bring it to life in your website with the pictures, testimonials, blog posts, etc., which really adds a lot of credibility to the story of an organization. Yeah, and therefore, as we all know, recruitment, as I said, is very close to marketing. So when you want to market, you need collaterals to support you to market. And I think these are the kind of things that really help us to take this forward. So that would be my pitch, Professor Arup and the esteemed guests. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Uma. So very thoughtful and intuitive thoughts. So few of the words you have expressed, one is something, your word of mouth. So very interesting that you spoke about the word of mouth, which you have been elaborating in your speech. So it's a fact that employees are like windows that give your clients and prospects and also candidates to work in our company. So I have scribbled few words from your speech. So visibility on how things work within the company, as we all know what some people think and say about our company influences and what other we will think about it. Therefore, it also impacts the company's success and growth opportunities in the long term. One very well said is the special feeling, to create a special feeling amongst the mindset of the employees. So given a beautiful example of Starbucks, that why repeatedly we visit for having a coffee at all. So thank you once again. So we'll have you during our open session. So now finally we have Ms. Meenakshi, People and Culture Partner at Volvo Group's Truck Technology. She specializes in the areas of employee engagement, talent development, HR project management, and talent retention. Now, prior to joining Volvo, she was associated with DXC Technology, wherein she partnered with business leaders to design and implement engagement initiatives that would align with organizational goals and strategy, and collaborated with people managers focusing on learning and development initiatives. She strongly believes in continuous improvement and innovation, and like Ankush sir, she has also done her MBA from XIM University. So welcome as an alma mater to our university. So now I hand over to Ms. Meenakshi for your views.
A very good afternoon. It's not long that I have moved out from this place. It's been only 5 years. So coming back to the campus here has brought back a lot of memories, and I see a lot of familiar faces over here. So this 5 years that after which I moved from here has been a great experience, and I was out in the world which was open and transparent, and back here to share my experiences around what I have observed about employer branding. So in this out and open world, I mean, I'll just put out a question to all of you. Whenever there has been a campus organization in campus, where did you go back and find out about the organization. I'm sure there would have been organizations that would have come about whom you would have known. Familiar organizations like, say, Godrej. That's one of the most familiar organization that comes back, Aditya Birla and whatnot. When I interviewed for the very first time for a company called TE Connectivity, I had no clue about the organization that I was interviewing for. The first touch point for me to go out and understand what the organization does was social media. It's out there in open to understand what the organization does. And the first thing that kind of stayed with me is they are transforming technologies. So that's where it interested me to, take up the opportunity to even interview for an organization like TE Connectivity. I'm still not sure how many would have heard about it because they are pretty much into a B2B space. So whenever there's an organization which is into B2B space, it's all the more important for them to build that employer brand, to establish themselves in the world out here to capture talent. I stayed with the organization for almost 4.5 years, worked with the internal communication team to build the employer brand. And a bigger part of it, what we have heard in the first half of the panel discussion, was building that employee value proposition. Employee value proposition doesn't really come out from what the organization does only. It stands for what the employees perceive of the organization, what the employees experience. And there were these 3 employee value propositions that came out from the employees themselves. That was I learn, I grow, and I connect. So these were the 3 value propositions that came out right from the employees, and that is what the organization stands for. Currently, when I'm associated with an organization like Volvo, the moment I kind of have a random conversation with anyone out there in market, the more people associate is with Volvo cars. But I'm not sure, do you know that Volvo cars is actually not part of the Volvo group as such? I want a raise in hands if anyone actually knew that. So hardly any. So that's exactly the employer brand where, what comes into picture. Out there, it's all out there in market. I mean, we open, whenever there's a job opportunity, the first place that we go to figure out what the organization really does is there in LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has multiple tabs. I mean, you go, you open, and you see what is life at Volvo, what is life at TE, what is life at any other organization. And that's what exactly builds our employer brand, what experiences you give to your employees. And that in turn, as the topic of today stands, is actually helps you build, help grow the economic part of the organization. According to me, there are multiple aspects of our employer brand. The first one that I very closely kind of relate to is the direction, is the leadership, what the leadership believes in. For example, in Volvo, Volvo stands for sustainability. Basis the Paris Agreement, Volvo as an organization has agreed to go 100% fossil free by the year 2050. So for that to happen, currently Volvo Trucks, which is the biggest business area for Volvo, they have already started working on it, and sustainability is what Volvo really stands for. And that's one of the value that I believe in, I associated with, and that's the reason I'm there with the organization. So currently, it's not just what the product that a organization is offering, but what the organization stands for, the values of the organization. So today's talent actually looks at that to get associated with the organization, to stand for what they value. Similarly, the other aspects or dimensions of employer brand that I would like to touch upon are the job interests, the opportunities that an organization has to provide. As Uma ma'am rightly highlighted, the experiences that we build for a candidate actually goes a long way. There could always be situation where the the candidate does not join the organization, but the impact that the experience that you leave with the candidate would actually be long lasting. And Volvo as an organization has been here for more than 95 years. And the reason it's been here for such a long time is because of the value that they have created in the world and the experiences that they have given to the current employees, the alumni, as well as the candidate, the prospective candidate of the organization. The other aspect that I really believe is when you are in the organization, the growth, the development, the recognition of the work that you do. So that goes a long way and helps you build as an employer of choice. Without which, if there is nothing for me in the organization, there's no point for me to be there. So only when I know that for the next couple of years where I aspire to be is what the organization is offering and helping me build my brand, that's the reason I would stick around the organization. And that's a win-win situation for both me as well as the organization. And in the process, of course, recognition plays a majority of role. Recruitment is something that Uma ma'am had touched upon, so I wouldn't really like to highlight on that. And communication, what the organization stands for. The moment those communication go out in the market, that's where you're building the brand for yourself. There is a small video I would like to play for all of you, a video which is more than 8 years old, but that is also something that the organization associates with till now.
I've had my ups and downs, my fair share of bumpy roads and heavy winds. That's what made me what I am today. Now I stand here before you. What you see is a body crafted to perfection, a pair of legs engineered to defy the laws of physics, and a mindset to master the most epic of splits.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows? Only time. And who can say if your love grows as your heart shows? Only time. We
So the organization, which has been here for 95 years, never needed a leadership to go out and speak loud about what they stand for. It's the
Hello.
customers. It's
I'm Roland Sanson, technician at the Volvo Trucks. I have been working with the ground clearance of the new Volvo FMX, and I'm proud to say it's fantastic.
I think it's the next one.
We have a stiff plate protecting all vital parts, and we have
The organization stands for itself. Of course, we have our leaders go out, speak in the market, but then it's the customers, the stakeholders who speak for what the organization stands for. And these are the instances which help you build the employer brand, what you stand for, and what the talent out there in the market believes to be associated with. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, few takeaways. One is definitely you emphasized on the social reputation of the organization, which is an important factor of employer branding. And very beautifully, you have connected the EVP, like I learn, I know, and I connect. And what leadership believes in. Someone, organization which has 99 years old or 100 years old, the leader need not have to pitch out or stand to prove that what is employer branding of that organization. So before I open it for the students, so I have few questions which I have scribbled while you all were speaking. So one is for the Ankush sir. So if you can elaborate, because you touched upon a very important aspect, that employer branding has a direct impact on company growth. It could be negative or it could be positive. So how could we get the most out of our employer branding efforts to positively influence company growth? If you can give a view to our students.
So I'll first bring in the HR concept as to why HR needs to own up employer brand, thinking like a finance person. Now, what does a good employer brand does to you? Now, if you step into HR shoes, it will first thing that comes to your mind is that people will stick around with me. There will be high retention rates. People will feel happy at workplace, which means you will not lose more people. So your cost of hiring goes down. Second, if you're a good employer brand, you will be able to attract the right set of people in the organization. And I think in the previous session, one point came up about organization culture. Now, it takes ages and ages to build an org culture. It is not something which happens overnight. For that, you need the right set of people. Not the brightest people, not the smartest people, but the right set of people for the right job. A good employer brand can help you get the right set of people for the right job. Now, if you put these two things together, that you get right people at the right time, you have less attrition, you have low cost of hiring, it automatically adds up onto your bottom line. You pick up any balance sheet today, the biggest overhead apart from machinery is people. You take any organization, be it startups, be it your tenured organizations, be it across the sectors, every organization has a sound focus on how they manage their people. And that has a bottom line solid impact on improving the profitability. You pick up any annual report, I'm sure XIMB library is full of annual reports. Any annual report you pick up, there will be a line, our people are the biggest assets that we have. Pick up any organization, you will find this line in any form or fashion mentioned in the annual report. It is there because there is a reason, there is a science, there is a finance behind it. Organizations do consider people as the source for growth. And I very well resonate with what Meenakshi said, that I learn, I grow, and I connect. If you are in the organization, and if the organization believes that with your growth, the organization growth gets propelled, right? That's the best place to be in. Just to summarize the answer for Professor Chaudhary, if we have to grow as an employer brand, there has to be a science behind it. There has to be some number-driven approach behind it. And there is a definite positive result happening that if you are a strong employer brand, you will be a profitable brand. You will be a brand with much more happy people with lower costs.
Beautifully said, sir. One, people are the biggest asset in the organization. And second, we should have a robust scientific approach. Now, I have scribbled few lines when Uma was speaking. So, it was a very powerful phrase you have used, word of mouth. So, this word of mouth also impacts the company's success and growth opportunities in the long term. So, in this sense, how could, as an employer, we overcome the impact of a weak employer branding on our overall branding strategy? So, Uma, over to you for your views.
Thanks, Professor Arup, and a very interesting question. Because we often talk about building a great brand, but how do you actually create redemption for yourself from a brand that is not so great. Yeah, so that's really food for thought for all of us. Why does a brand become weak? I think it's very important to understand the levers of that. And those levers are going to be the key to correcting and modifying the brand image, as it were to be. Okay. So as Ankush and Meenakshi both have mentioned, I think there is a lot of work to be done within the organization to hear your people and understand what they are thinking about the organization. And when you hear them, that's when you know what is going on inside people's mind. So if I were to take this exercise on me in terms of improving a weak employer brand, I would first turn inside and look at what people are saying in the company. What is their sore point? Where are they feeling aggrieved? And I'm telling you, this is also the easiest way of fixing it. Because if you're able to get a handle on what people are feeling today and why they don't feel so great about it, you pretty much have your roadmap in front of you in terms of what you need to do. Right? So that's one. Number two is I'd also probably look at people who have left the organization over the past 1 year and try to figure out through a delayed feedback as to why they would have left. And when they were here, what did they like and what did not like too much, right? Because when you do an exit interview at the point when the individual is leaving, it's likely that they may not give you the real reason for leaving the place. Yeah, because they would be worried about their full and final settlement, or worried that, in the next organization, they might get a bad reference check or whatever. And so immediately, I don't think we get very good and objective data. But what can be a good time is after 6 months of leaving, if you can kind of catch these people and check with them as to what do they like and what is it that they'd like to change, more likely that you will get some very objective feedback. Number three is, I would also go to the supplier community from where we hire, right? And look at those folks and say, what makes you feel attracted towards an organization? And in course of that discussion, I'd probably come down to say, what do you think about this organization? And I think you will get a lot of feedback from folks about what it is. I think if you get a combination of these three views, you will pretty much have your action plan in front of you in terms of what are some low-hanging fruits that can be fixed quickly, what are ones which need structural changes, and then what are the ones which have got to do with the culture. And then I think this mirror has to be shown to the decision makers in the organization. If the internal team is able to do that, great. Otherwise, go and look at some of these well-reputed consultants, because sometimes companies tend to listen to consultants better than their own people. That's a reality of life. So get some of those people who could actually make an impact with the topmost person in the organization or the team, and get them to show the mirror and tell them that if you don't fix this, there are likely consequences to this, which then will make it very difficult for you to get back. I think that's that. And obviously, you need to also do some kind of benchmarking around, see what others are doing. Yeah, because all of what may be said may still may seem very biased to people, saying that, oh, because you wanted, you're saying this. But look around and see what's happening around, and then you will probably know as to where you stand. Right now, again, let me put a word of caution here. All of this can happen with people who are concerned about their reputation and want to change it. There are people who are not very concerned about it and want to live in a very opaque room where nothing is seen. Then perhaps a lot of this is not going to make a difference. And then we should then turn to that book which says Build to Last, and open that book and see how many companies are still lasting. And to my disappointment and pain, when I see that list, the 3/4 of the companies have vanished. right? And they vanished for different reasons, but one of the very important reasons is also about the employer branding. And employer branding comes with consistency in an organization. So a great company which is, turns a unicorn and then doesn't know how to head forward, dies a death as quickly as it has risen. Yeah. So that's really what happens. And I think therefore it's very important for the decision makers and the topmost people to understand. And finally, the one point that I'll add to this is today in a listed company, the board of directors plays a very important role. The board of director has got itself manifest a duty to show the mirror to the management of the organization to tell them that things are not okay and you need to really pull up your socks here. Most of these board members are also members of the various subcommittees, right? Like audit committee, nomination and remuneration committee, and things like that, where all the important policies of an organization are seen. And that's a great place for them to influence and actually bring about the change in the organization. So many things, it's not about advertisement, it's not about big banners. I think it's a lot of core, serious work to be done inside the organization to improve the plant.
Thank you, Uma. You touched upon a very important your aspect of mirroring. So that is the need of the hour today. So now I will just request Ms. Meenakshi, because you mentioned that it's not easy to work on employer branding, which you touched upon. Now it's quite difficult to ensure that all the employees have the tools to effectively enhance the employee brand, or even to confirm that they understand the importance of doing so. So which methods or strategies could we use to involve our employees and incentivize them to collaborate with us on improving our employer brand? Because most of us here are the students are here who are the prospective employees. So that will give them a flair of what kind of strategies they should adopt once they join the organization. So what?
So I think the first thing that I have practiced as employee engagement specialist is listening to employees. The most of the part to understand the pulse of the organization would be from listening to employees. So giving them a voice. There could be multiple options to do that. The first could be, having focus group discussion, similar to, something like you kind of have employees across different age group. You have employees coming from a diverse mindset. You have employees coming from different regions as well. So listening to them, understanding the pulse of the organization actually helps you build the employer brand as to where we are and where we want to be. Apart from that, of course, we have other mechanisms like engagement service. They kind of highlight a lot about how the organization is doing internally. The more you ask questions, the more you try to listen to the employees, understanding their pulse would actually give you clear picture as to what's actually happening within the organization. And these inputs, the moment they're shared with the leadership team, as Uma ma'am just highlighted, most of the leaders actually want to hear a consultant share the same story rather than hear it out from the employees. But what you hear from the employees are the true stories which can actually help you, bring a change within the organization, trying to understand where you are, where you want to be. So it's all starts from the employees, the people. That's why even in our organization, even Ankush mentioned about it earlier, the world is changing. We are not addressing employees as employees, but as people, as individuals. That's why in Volvo as well, we are not called human resource business partners, but we are called people and culture partner, because what we do is we collaborate with people to bring a change in the culture of the organization.
Thank you. So it's very well articulated, because two important aspects you touched upon. One is definitely the employee voice, and second is the pulse of the organization. So now I make it open for the students, so that if anyone has any question, please come forward and ask.
Good afternoon, Vandal. Thanks for insightful session. My question is, what role employees have in employer branding? As Umam said, one is word of mouth, but apart from that, employee role has an employer branding, and what we as employers can do to engage more people in employer branding.
So if I get your question, it's what role do employees have in building an employer brand?
Yes.
Is that the question?
Yes, and how we can make employees more involved in employer branding.
Okay. I think employer brand cannot be built without the involvement of employees. So, like, I think the first panel was all about involvement of people in building the brand, right? An organization itself is zilch, zero, without its people. If people are not there, if any of the parts of an organization fails to deliver on the employer brand proposition, the brand cannot be created. So it's like all forces gunning towards one single objective. Now, it has gone to an extent that it is not just your own people. You look at your e-commerce firms, right? They even consider the contractual third-party resources who are not even on the rolls of the organization as brand ambassadors. So a delivery boy coming to your house to deliver a packet of food, right? Mind you, he's not even working for that organization. He's working for some other organization who's on a contract. But he still wears a particular brand of t-shirt, right? He still considers himself to be a part of that particular organization. So that is the level in which organizations are involving people towards building an employer brand. So employee contribution is a must. It cannot be 99.9%. It has to be 100%.
If I may just add to it, what you see out there in social media, because I think in the current world, social media plays a big role in the image that the organization has. If you go out, whatever you see in the social media, whatever the employees actually voice out or share their opinion on, is actually what builds the employer brand. Say something like, life at XIMB. The pictures that we have posted earlier or is what actually shows the outside world what is it to experience life at XIMB. Similarly, most of the organizations right now are actually driven by the experiences that they provide the employees and that the employees currently are, kind of broadcasting to the outside world.
A very good afternoon to one and all present over here. Sir was talking about attrition rate. So my question is about during the Great Resignation period, which is still continuing. So to what length or to what extent does employer branding plays to retain the employee back?
Well, Great Resignation is still continuing, and all organizations are facing challenges because it's not something which is a happy space to be in. But having said that, lot of efforts are being made to retain people, right? Employer branding is one of the, you can say, one of the levers that organizations utilize to attract and retain talent. And it again boils down to what kind of people are we talking about. Now, this generation which is sitting across the hall, they will definitely, do a diligence on which organization do you want to join. Now, the basis of that diligence can be very different. Like earlier they were mentioning, what is the purpose of the organization? What do I learn in that organization? How much do I make in that organization? That is also one of the factors, but I think it is slowly losing its position as number one factor because comp is no longer a first attraction. It is more about flexibility. It is more about what kind of impact that my work will create. What is my learning curve in the organization? Now, all these factors, if not incorporated into an employer brand, right? If all these messages are not sent out that yes, we are an employer brand, We are an employer which focuses on, our people's growth. We are an employer which focuses on our people's, compensation. We are an employer brand which is focusing on the wellness of our people. If this messaging does not go out as an employer brand, you will struggle to attract people. Attrition probably will be there, right? I don't know for how long the great resignation drive will continue, but hopefully with recession settling in, this should also taper down. But having said that, employer brand is one of the big levers that can be used to control attrition.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my question is for Ms. Meenakshi ma'am. What crucial role means how crucial is that a role of employer branding helps in retaining the talent in automobile sector as it's a very dynamic and competitive market.
So currently, I think the automobile sector is one of the most interesting sectors because of the transformation that it's undergoing. We have electromobility coming into picture. So of course, when you ask me to retain talent, the best effort that we could put as an organization would be upskilling and reskilling the existing talent. Creating more opportunities for people to move within the organization because the sector is such that even if the technology changes, there is a lot of skills and competencies that employees possess, which can be kind of maneuvered through the organization, and they can be put into different parts of the organization as well. With that, I think the two automobile industry that I have been part of, internal job movements play a crucial role in retaining talent or helping us not lose talent to the outside market.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Arif Billah. I'm from the MBA HRM batch of 22-24. My question is, currently we see normally in many startups, due to the advancement of technologies, companies prefer contractual hiring, as newer employees who have updated skill sets are easy to train and at very lower cost. So how much impact does this approach of contractual hiring has and being perceived on the traditional value of this employer branding?
Can I take that?
Yes,
Aru?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. Right. So that's a very good question. And the one thing to note is whether, the number of people and the kind of contractual agreements is the prerogative of an organization and it's based on its business model, right? So you could have a business model where you have everybody who's a full-time hire, or you could have a business model which says X% will be a full-time hire, and there would be X% who would be part-time, X% contractual, X% gig, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that is a company's business model and its affordability in terms of the way it wants to run its business, right? Having said that, that really should not have any bearing on the employer branding because it's about how you treat everybody, irrespective of the kind of contract that the individual carries, right? You could have an organization which does not distinguish between a full-time hire and a contractual employee in terms of benefits. You could have an organization which has a similar facility for both of them. For example, your canteens or restroom or buses, etc. Yeah, because you're extending the same kind of benefit. Or you could have different kinds of benefits extended to different folks. But the point is not about what you're extending and how much you're extending. It's how fairly you're, rolling these out to people and what kind of experience you're giving to them, which builds your brand. If you look at the top companies in the world today, they have a huge contractual staff. right? And very leading companies are contracting for them. Okay, so if you take TCS has been the contracting partner for large players for years together, right? So that doesn't mean that TCS has to be treated badly, or TCS treats its own employees badly, because TCS also has to build its reputation as a supplier of manpower and as a contracting partner. So therefore, the issue is not about what is the composition of the workforce. The issue is about how you are rolling out your policies and processes and how fair and unique they are to the organization that actually builds the brand. Yeah. And I remember long back, since you asked this, we used to have this situation in one of the places where we had a different kind of a workstation for a full-time employee and a very different kind of workstation for a contract employee in the same place. And the difference was so stark for people to see that, when there were suites distributed for certain occasions, they would give it to the employee and not give it to the contract, who's sitting right next to that. Those kind of things are terrible in terms of the way they communicate about your brand. And so, we had to work on that, and we said, no, if everybody gets 1 kilo of sweet, let's make it half kilo, but give it uniformly to everybody so that everyone gets the same unique experience. And the sweet's a very small example, but I'm talking about various benefits that we talk about. Therefore, my belief is the composition of an organization should not matter to the employer brand. It's about how you treat people.
Thank you, ma'am.